Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь. Ваши жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt. And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 584 of the stream. And we're either entering our darkest hour or our finest hour, and we'll find out very soon. But some very big news is coming out today, and welcome back. And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. And today has certainly been one of the craziest days, news-wise, that we've seen over the past few weeks, or hell, even most of this year of the war. Everything that could have happened is happening, and also, there is some massive stuff going on with Serbia right now, as well as it appears that they too will be entering a full-scale war here within the next few days. But moving on from that, and on into the area of Ukraine, we have had massive news tonight. Great news in one regard, bad news in the other. Of course, before we get into this, I do have to quickly make the statement that while many of y'all will want for us to cover a certain bit of this news tonight in a certain way, I do have to remind everyone that on this channel we have a no politics rule. We do not discuss politics in a partisan way. And of course we'll have to talk about it a little bit tonight because it is something that has happened that is major affecting Ukraine, but this channel will not, no matter any circumstance, no matter what happens, take a political stance on the left or the right of the political spectrum. We are going to remain down the middle, completely neutral, and we will not allow partisan politics to be discussed or lobbied for in our live chat. I have to get that out of the way first and foremost tonight because we are going to be going into news that I know will get many people fired up and infuriated, but nevertheless, it is what it is. We are going to cover it, but at the same time, we are not going to break the primary rule of this channel as far as news coverage goes. But moving on from that, and moving on into the amazing news of the night, the British are coming! And I gotta say, they're getting there. They're getting there. According to information that has come out from the British government, from the Secretary of Defense, or the Defense Secretary of the United Kingdom, Grant Shapps, he told The Telegraph, the news agency The Telegraph, that he had held talks with the army leaders about shifting an official British-led training program into the United Kingdom. And as of right now, that plan will be underway. The British forces are currently not in Ukraine at the moment, but an actual contingent of British armed forces soldiers will be sent into Ukraine and will be inside of Ukraine. This is the first time that we've ever heard a statement like this officially. It is absolutely unbelievable, and also many people have been having some mixed things to say. And of course, we've been roaming around the internet today and looking at what a lot of people say about what this is. Some people said that this isn't even important, this is pointless. And a lot of people said that this could be leading to World War III. And it's honestly somewhere a little bit down the middle of the two. It is a big deal. Now, we already know that Western forces have been inside of Ukraine, mostly special forces units of countries like the United States and the United Kingdom. But the thing about that, though, is that from what we understand, those were usually attached to embassy staff and meant to provide security to them in the middle of a nation that is at war. That is largely what it appeared that the special forces were there for. And we also have to understand that that was not an official declaration. No country ever came out and said, our special forces are 100% in there. Everyone came out and said they might be in there, they might not be in there, but nobody ever made an actual statement confirming their existence inside of Ukraine. This statement today by the Defense Secretary of the United Kingdom is something that is completely different than any other statement we've seen before. It is confirming that British forces will be going into Ukraine. And some people are saying, well, hey, they're going to be in advisory roles. And I don't know if any, maybe people who say they haven't heard about history, because the United States went into South Vietnam only in advisory roles. And then look what happened. We actually got involved in the war completely. We were doing about as much in the field as the Army of the Republic of Vietnam was doing at some points in the war. And so you always have to keep in mind that this kind of involvement, moving actual armed forces into a country, even if it's just in a training role, is something that is very, very escalatory, actually. And it's something that I have to say, good on Britain for doing. It's certainly showing that NATO is not scared of Russia at all. Because if you're going to move your own armed forces into a country and just start training them there, that is a pretty bold move. Hell, I think the bigger question is, how's Russia going to perceive it? Because Britain can say that they're going there to only train Ukrainian troops, but that doesn't matter. It turns out, how does Russia view it? And I doubt they're going to view that as simply a mundane act. Oddly enough, we actually haven't got an official statement from the Russian government at this point about what was said. But there was also something that was very nuts that I've looked around and I found that nobody is talking about, Matthew, on social media, because there was a second thing that was talked about in that meeting with the British Defense Secretary that is just the craziest thing I've heard, and probably one of the most ambitious things that the British can undertake. There was actually the discussion of the possibility of the Royal Navy providing armed escorts for merchant vessels into Ukrainian waters all the way to the port of Odessa and back. Wow, that would be even more bold. I hadn't heard that. I hadn't really heard that much at all. I actually had to go around and try and read up on this as much as I could and what that meeting entailed, and that was something that was kind of a footnote. And honestly, that ought to be the thing that's a little bit more pressed. The Royal Navy may possibly look into providing armed escorts for civilian shipping that will be traveling to and from the port of Odessa. If that ends up being the case, that probably would be more escalatory than any other action that NATO has taken so far, at least as far as the Russians would be concerned. And when we say escalatory, some people may be misunderstanding what we mean here. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying, what are the Russians going to do in response? What would naturally create escalation? That would. The Russians are going to freak out because they are currently trying to enforce a blockade onto all Ukrainian ports, and currently they're failing at that because, of course, their navies have largely been decimated already in the Black Sea area. But at the same time, the British would be directly violating the Russian blockade inside of Ukrainian waters and helping merchant shipping to get through it, which is actually direct NATO involvement in the middle of an armed war zone. So that would be really bizarre if that happens. Of course, the British said that they discussed it. They didn't say that they had confirmed it or anything, so it's more so on the table right now. But we do know that the British Army will be entering Ukraine and helping to train Ukrainian forces inside of the country, which is something that is absolutely amazing to hear, and hopefully will be helping the Ukrainian armed forces to be better off than they were at the start. Of course, most of them have already, all Ukrainian soldiers that have been trained by the British have actually been flown from Ukraine to Britain, trained there, and then flown back, which is a pretty long and arduous process and adds a lot of complication to the matter. It would be a lot easier for the British to be inside of Ukraine training Ukrainian forces there than taking them all the way to Britain, training them there, and then sending them back. It's also cost prohibitive as well, and it's a lot cheaper to do it inside of Ukraine. But still, absolutely incredible. And speaking of cost prohibitive, there was something, and of course we have to move on into it because it's the elephant of the room, and I didn't even get to color coding them. So let me make sure to color code these and make sure to put the little trumpets on them because it is big news. But now we have to move on into the elephant in the room. Now, I have to make this statement again because I know many of y'all have hopped in between when I made the statement and now, so maybe y'all didn't hear it. But while we will be covering, for a brief moment, what has happened today inside of the U.S. government, we are not going to be taking a political spin on this. Of course, we support Ukraine, so we're going to, of course, largely go with a position that supports Ukraine in this situation, but we are not going to be delving into a partisan speech talking or bashing one political group or the other. This channel does not delve into politics. If you support Ukraine, you are welcome here. It does not matter what political spectrum you are on. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are, who you are, where you're from. As long as you support Ukraine, that's all that matters to me. And that's all that matters as far as we cover the news. Beyond that, we try and keep neutral on just about everything we can. But moving into the city of Washington, D.C., a big bit of news came out today that was a little unfortunate for the Ukrainians, at least in the short term. The United States has currently had a little bit of a problem passing a spending bill, which, of course, is what we do every single year to lay out the budget of the federal government and where the funds are proportioned, at least the funds in the discretionary spending budget. Unfortunately, the Congress has actually been hung up recently on the spending bill and what exactly to approve, or at least to sign off on. And unfortunately, the government actually was not able to come to an agreement, and so it started to go into shutdown today. An emergency bill was passed to fund the government for the next 45 days, meaning that the government has another 45 days of funding before the funding once again runs out, and then the government sits there and shuts down. Many of y'all may know what a government shutdown is. Largely, that means that federal employees will not be paid, and the U.S. bureaucracy, at least for that time, will largely grind to a halt, at least on the federal level. State level usually continues on without any concern, but unfortunately, in this emergency spending bill, it appears that the funding for Ukraine was cut, at least from the information we got previously. There was no mention of Ukraine in the stopgap spending bill, and so for 45 days or so, there will be no aid that is going to be provided to Ukraine. And the Pentagon had already come out just an hour later and made a statement declaring that there was no more support to give to Ukraine because there were no funds allocated to send over to the Ukrainians. So, of course, it is a very unfortunate circumstance. We can't really get into much of the politics involved there, but terrible to hear that support from the United States has been cut off as far as Ukraine is concerned. We are hoping that the 45-day emergency spending bill is the only time we see that Ukrainian aid is cut off. We know that whenever the U.S. government is funded and they actually get around to discussing and talking about sending aid to Ukraine, most of the Congress is actually well in favor of continuing support to Ukraine, almost on every side of the aisle, except for a small group of people. And that's something that we're hoping will continue once this situation resolves itself. But of course, at the moment, it is a little bit of a precarious situation, and we can see that it may end up hurting Ukraine for a short while. Ukraine can, of course, carry on, though, for about 45 days without receiving any massive amounts of support because, you know, they're doing pretty good. And you don't have to have literal daily support. The United States doesn't send daily support to Ukraine. It's more so in large bulks every month or 2 months or so. So it's perfectly fine. They, of course, did get approved for $300 million of additional support, I believe, just the day before. And so they should be able to float through the next 45 days on that alone, at least we're hoping. But moving on from that unfortunate news, and of course, I do understand everyone's frustration, and of course, it's quite frustrating to us as well, considering that we have been covering this war and, you know, doing this for so long, and of course, lobbying for all of y'all to reach out to your elected representatives and tell them how much support to Ukraine matters, at least on a strategic level for the United States, and how much it matters for them to continue to have constituents that vote for them. But nevertheless, at the moment, we do have to accept that for what it is. If you are unhappy with your elected representative, for example, if they were one of the few people who are actually hanging up the spending bill right now because of this, you could always write them a letter. Not a threatening one, though. Do not threaten people. That's a terrible idea. But you could write up a letter telling them how much you support Ukraine, how you're one of their constituents, how you voted for them. You didn't have to vote for them to say that. You can just say it. And how it is very important to you that they continue to support Ukraine or support Ukraine, so that way you will vote for them again. That is a very important thing to put out there. So if you want, make sure to write a letter to your elected representative. Hopefully they will be able to end up, turning around their support or continue to support Ukraine. But of course, now it's time, at least for the next 45 days, hopefully we'll see that the Europeans can step up and fill in the deficit that the United States may be leaving behind, at least for the next 45 days. So
with that,
You know what I found interesting though is, obviously they didn't pass the aid in the stopgap bill, which is disappointing to say the least. But now the Pentagon comptroller is saying that they don't have any funds left to disperse to Ukraine, which is weird to me because how did that happen on the exact same day they failed to pass support for Ukraine? That doesn't really add up to me. But I don't follow that stuff very closely, how we spend our money in our country. So, Enforcer, could you fill me in if you have any information? Because I wasn't able to find anything on it.
I'm not exactly certain, to be quite honest with you, because from what I'm understanding, all of the aid packages that we have set up so far, including the one that was just passed the other day for about 300 million or so, all of those are actually appropriated off of the last year's budget, which had already been approved. So I don't know how the
That's
funding,
what I thought.
Yeah, I don't know how the funding is running out, considering that they haven't made an agreement for the next year worth of funding. That doesn't really make a lot of sense how that's now affected last year's funding, and what we've approved out of that lot. So, that is a little weird to me. I don't know, maybe that's just a statement that is possibly, and, I'm going to say this, but not say it in a partisan way. It may possibly be political posturing. Who really knows? It sounds like something that might be legitimate, but at the same time, it does seem quite odd, considering that all of the support we're giving to Ukraine is approved off of last year's budgeting, not this year's budgeting, because if it was approved off of this year's budgeting, they wouldn't have been able to pass it 2 days ago, because it would have been a part of the discretionary spending bill that would have been on the floor and held up today. So, not really sure how that's working, to be quite honest with y'all. We'll have to try and look into that a little bit more and see what in the world's up with that. But still...
And also, I see some folks are confused at what I'm referring to. So real quick, I'm scrolling through our Twitter here to get to it. It was the Pentagon comptroller saying that as of yesterday, the U.S. has no funds allocated to help Ukraine, and that the comptroller is pleading with Congress to go ahead and pass some more support, which obviously that did not happen because they're out of funds. And like Enforcer's saying, I thought that we had a bit of a lag in funding where we didn't spend it all at once and we had funds left. And I see some folks saying that it's DoD-specific funds, but even at that still doesn't make sense because the money that was passed wasn't all spent, to my understanding. So it didn't just go into nothing unless it expired or something like that. Then that would be the only explanation I could think of that would, justify the situation.
Yeah, I really, to be honest with y'all, I would have to say I'd have to do a lot more research on this to get an actual answer. And of course, even doing research, it would probably end up being a partisan answer, leaning one way or the other. And then that would, of course, break the rules of the channel. So we can't really get into it too much here. Of course, unfortunate, and hopefully it is something that is short-term and not long-term. But with that, we are now going to be moving on into the area of Europe again. And I'm trying to figure out how to lay out this news tonight, because there are so many things that are going on inside of Ukraine, outside of Ukraine, and everywhere around the world today that is all breaking in its own right, that it's really hard to try and get around and pick which one we're going to be going with. So I guess we'll go with the one in Russia, because we only have the one bit of news in Russia, and it's also pretty wild. So many of y'all know about the Saratov Air Base attack at Ingles Air Base around last year or early this year, I believe, where a strategic bomber was possibly hit and destroyed in this area, or at least major damage was caused to the airfield and the aircraft on it. And you can see all of the tarmacs lined out here for all the bombers to be set up on. We can also see one Tu-95 at the chop shop. Love to see it. But this is a place where a lot of the Russian strategic bombers that fire off cruise missiles at Ukraine are based from. And oddly enough, we can see that the Russians are trying to do a little bit of a deception here on their Ingles Air Base tarmac. Check it out. Do you see anything mysterious?
They're disposing of old tires on top of their aircraft now.
No, look really close, Matthew. Look really close. Look at the one on the left, look at the one in the center, and look at the one on the right. Do you notice anything?
Oh, they've added a cloaking device.
No, no.
What is it?
They're painted onto the tarmac. Notice these
how
two.
How can you tell that? Because I see a shadow on one of them.
Where do you see a shadow? I don't see a shadow on any of them, Blade. I just see paint.
That one over there on the far left, I see a shadow cast off of it.
Well, yes, because that is a real Tu-95, but these other two, they're painted onto the runway.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is somewhat interesting. You sound, Andy, this is the most confused I've ever heard you sound. You're like,
I was trying to figure out because this. It looks like it might be top down from the two on the right, and maybe a little bit from the side on the one on the left. But maybe so. I mean, they look a little funny.
Well, they're painted on, Matthew, because if this one has a shadow, why do the other two not have shadows? They would all have shadows.
Oh, I guess so. I mean, it looks like it might be top down though. Like maybe the shadow wouldn't be cast because it's looking straight down at those two, and maybe from the side on the other one. But I don't know. Maybe so.
But Matthew, we have to look at the positioning of the sun. See, the sun is not shining straight down on them. It's shining at them on an angle, and that's why the tail is casting a shadow towards the northern side of the tarmac. Now, if that is the case,
I mean, it could be painted on. It could be. I'm telling you.
Well, no, it's not. Could be. It is painted on. These two are painted on because it's just the case. It's just what it is. But still, pretty wild to see that they're painting aircraft onto the tarmac. But if it can fool Matthew, it might be able to fool a Ukrainian drone pilot that is flying his drone in and sees one of these on the tarmac. It may also somewhat inflate, if someone isn't looking too carefully, somewhat inflate the numbers of all the Tu-95s that the Russians have in service, and it may make it look like they're reintroducing aircraft into service. Now, this may have worked way back in the day, in the 1960s, when camera technology wasn't what it is now. But nowadays, this is going to be really hard-pressed to work. Like you can see right here, this Tu-95 clearly is casting a shadow. These two are not. And that's something that you can easily observe if you look at the picture really well. And also, this one's elevated off the runway, which is something else you can tell because the shadow is casted where you can actually physically see it. The other two would be casting shadows as well. And we can find Tu-95s here on the runway, like this one where you're looking straight top down, there is a shadow being cast. Look at this one, top down, shadow being cast. Look at this one at the chop shop, top down, shadow being cast. This one's casting a shadow. Let's see here. Even this MiG-31 is casting a small shadow. The Tu-95, actually the Tupolev down here is casting a shadow as well. This helicopter is even casting a few shadows. You can see the rotor blades. So you will always see a shadow, even if you're looking at this thing top down. So these are, in fact, painted onto the runway, and I don't know how well they're going to work, but nevertheless, pretty bizarre to see them doing Looney Tunes type crap, Matthew. This is the kind of crap that you would see Wile E. Coyote do, is paint the tunnel on the side of the wall.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I was flying a drone over from this height, looking straight down at it like this picture is, I would probably be fooled by it, like, pretty quickly. Because unless you stare at it for a minute, I'm starting to see what you're talking about. But unless you stare at it, I really couldn't tell it. I know folks are in the chat like, oh, I can tell that like instantly. But if you didn't see that caption, you might have been fooled by it too.
Man, I've seen some people in the live chat giving you smoke. They're like, what are you, blind? It's like, dang, don't be so violent about it.
Man, everybody knows when they read the caption and they look at it after they're being told what it looks like. But if it wasn't for the caption in context, I guarantee you at least 50% would have been fooled by this picture.
Man, I'm telling you though, but that's the thing about deception is that they're hoping that people will take the bait. And it looks like Matthew took that bait. But when I saw this picture, though, I'm gonna admit, the first time I saw it, I was like, what the hell's up with this one over here in the middle that's all white? I was like, what the hell is up with that one? Because no Tu-95 is painted solid white. They all have, like, this metallic sheen color to them. And so seeing a solid white one, I was like, what, is that one working for the UN now? I was like, no way. So that's what made me suspicious. And then when you read the caption and they say both of these are painted on, you're like, okay, that's very obvious now that they're painted on, two-dimensional. And also, there's no dimension to the rudder. Now, one thing I will say, because I'm sure the Russians are going to catch on to this sooner rather than later, if they just got out some black paint and painted a shadow out onto the runway, that would probably make it a lot more convincing than it is right now. But at the moment, there is no shadow painted onto the runway. It's just the bombers painted on, and it is somewhat convincing, but not really too convincing if you look at it for a moment. But moving on from that, we're now going to be moving on into Germany, because in Germany today we heard that Germany will be allowing the Taurus missiles to be used on Crimea, which is actually something that some countries do not allow their weapons to be used on. The British and the French, of course, allow the Scalp EG/Storm Shadow missiles to be used on Crimea. We saw those hitting the Black Sea Fleet's headquarters a little while ago, and we also saw them hitting the Rapusha-class landing ship and the Kilo-class submarine that were in dry dock not too long ago. But the Taurus is, of course, very similar, but German-made exclusively. And it appears that they will be announcing, well, they already have announced, that this missile, once it arrives in Ukraine, can be used against Crimea. Apparently, it still can't be used against mainland Russia, but being able to strike deep into Crimea with these kinds of missiles is a big game changer, and hopefully this will be once again adding to the kind of firepower that the Ukrainians can yield against the Russians in Crimea. And so, we're now going to be moving on into the next thing. the next big thing. And I hate to like pretty much not have a segue into each bit of news tonight because there's really no good way to have segues because everything is literally on every different end of the world tonight and completely different. But moving on into Serbia, many of y'all may hear that there are tensions rising in Serbia. And also really quickly, Steve Lewis said, you can't paint a shadow, it keeps moving. And you're right, but you can always try. You can always try just to make it a little bit more convincing. Maybe they won't notice. But I have a feeling anyone's going to notice that a bomber's painted onto a runway. But you can always try and make it a little bit more convincing. But moving on into Serbia, many of y'all have been hearing about the tensions that have been escalating inside of the area over the past year. And many of y'all have certainly been hearing about it recently here on this channel. As of the last few days, it has been noted that the Serbs have clearly started to mobilize their armed forces and move them into the direction of Kosovo, with a statement being made by the Kosovan government yesterday that it appeared that Serbian forces were now starting to build up along the border, possibly with artillery and tanks, which are inherently offensive weaponry, meant to push into a territory that they do not hold. Over the last little while here, we've heard a lot more detailed analysis of what's happening at the Kosovan border, and it is painting a very drab picture. It's looking like it will become a war at this point. As we heard today from Global Military Info on Twitter, that Serbia has mobilized their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th brigades. Brigades are around 3,000 to 5,000 men in strength on average in the modern world, meaning that at a minimum, there are about 9,000 to 10,000 Serbian soldiers that are now mobilized and sitting on the Kosovan border right across the other side. And I'll be showing y'all where they're located here in a second as well, because much like with the beginning of the Ukrainian war, we have satellite pictures and a map that actually lays out where every single forward operating base of the Serbian army is. Anti-aircraft systems and heavy artillery has been noted in forward deployed positions, meaning that they are, of course, near these FOBs, and so it does appear that they will possibly be planned to be used here soon. You don't move that kind of equipment up without a plan. Britain has already transferred command of the 1st Battalion of the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment to NATO so it can provide support in Kosovo if required, and NATO has also authorized the additional deployment of forces to address the current situation. The situation is certainly starting to grow to be quite tense. We already heard that the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment is already moving into Kosovo at this moment as an announcement that a unnamed NATO force was moving into the country, but from what we understand, that would probably be one of the first quick reaction forces of NATO to be entering Kosovo at the moment, would be the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment. So that's probably the one that's inside of Kosovo right now, or is currently entering Kosovo. Another thing is that we've gotten a layout of the maps in this area showing the forward operating bases of the Serbian army, and here are all of them right here. They currently have 28 military forward operating bases. We can see that most of them are actually located here on the eastern border of Kosovo, and it appears that the Serbs are having a very predictable military plan if they were trying to conduct some kind of an offensive operation. We can see that they're trying to attack from the area of the eastern border towards the capital of Kosovo, which is Pristina, or Pristana, whatever you would like to call it. You know, tell me in the live chat what you want me to call it. I'll try and call it that. But the capital of Kosovo is closer over to the eastern side of the country than it is to the western side or the northern side. And so it appears that they're building up their forces to try and go for the quickest attack lanes down the highway straight into Pristana or Pristina and hopefully try and take the capital in some kind of a quick offensive. It appears that they also have one forward operating base along the border of Montenegro and Kosovo as well, up in the northern area, but it appears to be entirely on its own. And is probably a separated part of another brigade that is way further north, and they just moved maybe a battalion of it down into this area and is currently inside of that FOB. But knowing that there are exactly 3 brigades in the area, and they have 27 forward operating bases along the eastern border of Kosovo, this gives us a pretty good idea of what we can cut down these FOBs into. If each one of them is about the same size, that means that there is around approximately 4 companies, more or less, in each forward operating base. About 4 companies of infantry, if all of them are infantry. But this is giving us a really incredibly in-depth look, at least this map right here, at the deployment of Serbian forces and what their plan may be. Knowing that they have tanks and artillery, as well as surface-to-air missile defense systems in the area, along with these forward operating bases, based off of the position of these forward operation bases, it is clear this is not posturing, this is preparation for war, especially with where these forces are located in relation to the capital of Kosovo. If this war starts to break out, NATO involvement will practically be instant, as far as it goes. Of course, with Ukraine, we couldn't get involved because it has the Russians in the war directly. But in this war, considering that Serbia is in the middle of the Balkans, and considering that NATO forces are already moving into Kosovo right now, we'll probably see that this becomes a NATO peacekeeping operation, or NATO intervention will become an immediate requirement. Of course, the relations in between Kosovo and Serbia as well are something that is very long and very storied. It would be very hard to go into on stream the whole history of why Kosovo is something of an unofficial and separate country, but it largely has to do with ethnic tensions in between the Serbs and the Kosovans. They're two different cultures, and the Serbs during the Yugoslav wars, after the country of Yugoslavia started to break apart, they actually started to commit a genocide on the Kosovans, which was considered a crime against humanity, and then that led to NATO intervention, which led to the unofficial country of Kosovo existing. Kosovo is a recognized country by very few around the world. Let me actually pull up the list. Who recognizes Kosovo? Let's see. Among the G20 countries, 11, including all 7 G7 countries, have recognized Kosovo as an independent state. Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And let me see who else. Let's see here. So interestingly enough, y'all would be very interested to know this. Practically the entire Western world recognizes the sovereignty of Kosovo, and everyone who's not in the Western world outright denies the existence of Kosovo. So you can kind of see that this is a larger power play, a proxy in a way, in between the West and the rest of the world in whether Kosovo exists or not. Largely, it does exist, considering that they had a genocide conducted against them in the 90s, and that's why this country exists at all. I would say that they have a right to exist within their own sovereign territory. The Serbs, if they're able to take over the area, may start to conduct more reprisals, ethnic cleansings, and genocides against the Kosovan people. And not only that, it may bring destabilization to the region, as if the Serbians take over and they do succeed, and NATO intervention doesn't come around, we could probably suspect that Kosovan terrorist groups would start to pop up and attack the Serbians in hopes that Kosovo would eventually be liberated by the massive pressure that the terrorist groups would bring, which once again destabilizes the region. So you can kind of see that it's a bit of a bind, and NATO has to go into the area and ensure that the Serbs do not invade Kosovo, or it's stopped almost as quickly as it starts. Otherwise, this could start to become a very dangerous situation for the rest of the NATO and European Union countries that are inside of the Balkans. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news. And I say a little bit of news, but it's a really big piece of news that we're trying to condense down into a small form. But moving on from that and on into Ukraine, we're now moving on into the news of the actual war today and all the video and picture evidence that we've been able to get of that over the past 24 hours. Before we do that, however, I have to say that this live chat do be a bop. I gotta say, I've been looking at this live chat, and a lot of y'all have been saying all kinds of interesting stuff in there. Oh, really good stuff. Right now, a lot of y'all are talking about Serbia, actually, which is a very interesting topic. Of course, one that we will be covering tonight, considering it's a larger piece of news. And I'd also like to make it clear that while we make special occasions like tonight to talk about some international news, like the rising tensions in between Serbia and Kosovo, if a war breaks out in Serbia, we're not really sure if that would become a normal part of the nightly stream. Considering that Ukraine is a fairly large topic, and many of y'all are here for the war in Ukraine, it would be very hard for us to try and shift over into covering Serbia as well in the same stream. That would probably be something that we would cover in separate short summary videos that are put out in the middle of the day and make them specifically about the Serbian war if it does unfold. But with that, I hope that does at least give you all an idea of how we might structure this channel in the future if a war did break out in Serbia. But anyways, we got to hand this thing over to Matthew because we got to see what's going on. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so jumping into our first segment of polls and questions. Our first poll says Britain plans to deploy military troops on Ukrainian soil to quote unquote train their troops, and will Russia attack them? 49% said yes, Russia will attack those troops. 27% said, it seems possible but unlikely. 18% said no, Russia wouldn't dare do that. And 6% said unsure. And on this one, I have a very strong feeling that Russia is going to interpret this as a very aggressive move, which it certainly is aggressive. It's deserved, but it is aggressive. And I have a feeling that they're going to end up attacking those troops. It might be intentional or unintentional, but I think by the British sending those troops into an active war zone, which is not a NATO country, that would be a pretty tricky question as to whether or not Article 5 would be invoked by an attack on those troops. Because Ukraine's not NATO, but the troops that are there are NATO troops essentially. So that's a tricky situation, but it can certainly lead to a very bad situation if Britain decides to look at it like an attack on a NATO country. But Enforcer, what say you?
Well, they largely are a NATO force. There isn't actually a NATO army. So really, it's just any country that's a part of NATO is NATO. So attacking a British soldier and killing him would be killing a NATO soldier.
But they're in a non-NATO country.
Well, yes, but they still are a NATO. They're a NATO army. They may not be in NATO, like in NATO territory, but they are a NATO military, and so attacking them may possibly be construed as an invocation of Article 4 in the confines of Article 6. And then lead to Article 5. That's something that is possible, but of course they're not within the geographical limits of NATO. But that is still an escalatory thing. I would have to entirely agree with Matthew on that. It's something that the Russians are probably going to make a very strong response about. Now, if they do anything, I'd be shocked because they don't ever do anything whenever a strongly worded response comes around. The Russians just cry about everything and then they don't really do anything. So I would expect that they're going to do that again. But this is, of course, moving on into direct NATO involvement in the war. We're only one step away from this point of NATO forces practically fighting on the front lines in Ukraine. The British are kind of riding a fine line right here. I have to respect them greatly for what they've done today and in their announcement, because it is showing that NATO is not scared of the Russian Federation at all, and I think that's a very important message to send out, considering what's going on the Romanian border at the moment with the Russian drone attacks. But at the same time, it is moving us a little bit closer to war, and so we have to remember that we have to walk a fine tightrope right here, because if you fall off that tightrope, it will probably escalate into full-on, blown-out war in between the West and Russia. Now, of course, we will curb stomp them. That's not the concern. It's not the concern that we'll get steamrolled by the Russians. The concern is the nuclear weapons, and that's always the concern when dealing with the nuclear powers, that nuclear weapons are involved, and so things could start to become very concerning very quickly. But regardless, I do think that it is time for a strong stance to be made by NATO, and it's amazing to know that the British are one of the first countries to make such a strong stance, as in sending actual advisors and armed forces to help with the training of Ukrainian forces inside of their country. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And of course, if you disagree with me in the live chat, hey, that's fine. We don't have to agree with each other. And by the way, I just have to let y'all know, no matter what we say on this channel, both Matthew and me, and no matter what y'all type, it's all going to happen anyways, whether you wanted to or not. So we're all just chit-chatting here, and it's no big deal. Just remember that, everyone. Just calm down for a minute. It's just a game. It's just a misinput. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and also real quick, I was looking because I don't think it's a very straightforward question as to whether or not British troops being attacked inside a non-NATO country would be grounds to invoke or activate Article 5. So I took a quick glance, and it's obviously not a quick enough glance to know for certain what the answer is, but it looks like for the purpose of Article 5, an armed attack on one or more of the parties is deemed to include an attack on the territory of any of the parties in Europe or North America, or on the forces, vessels, or aircraft of any of the parties on the date when the treaty entered into force, and it gives some other details as well. So I don't think it's clear as day that an attack on those British troops inside of Ukraine would be able to be grounds for Article 5. It could certainly be argued that way, and NATO can do whatever it wants, but I don't think it's very clear-cut.
I'm trying to think right now about any historical examples where NATO involvement came around because NATO soldiers were killed outside of Europe, and I'm having a really hard time thinking of one. So sadly, I can't give a historical precedent to give us an answer here because I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I have a feeling, considering that they are the British Army, if a British instructor or trainer was killed, if the British wanted to, they probably would have good, solid ground to bring that up in front of the NATO Council and then argue that that is, in fact, an attack upon a NATO country. But who knows how they would argue. The British may understand the risks involved and just say, if the instructors somehow end up getting killed in a Russian attack, that's just something we're going to have to accept. That may be the mindset they're going into, into Ukraine with already. But at the same time, they may also be going in with the mindset, if they kill a British instructor, we are going to try our damnedest to invoke Article 4. It could go either way. We don't really know what the talk in Downing Street is right now about what will happen in that kind of event, but we'll have to wait and see what they actually come up with if a British instructor does end up getting killed in some kind of a Russian attack. And so with that, I hope that it does address that fairly well, at least from what I can say. But with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll says, if British soldiers are attacked in Ukraine, will that cause NATO to go to war with Russia? 43% said no, the British assume the risk. 27% said yes, an attack would mean war. 21% said maybe, but probably not. And 8% said unsure. So this is kind of along the same lines as that question we were just asking a minute ago as to whether or not there'd be grounds for Article 5. And it looks like not the majority, but most of you say that no, the British are assuming the risk by sending those soldiers in. And I would have to tend to agree with that. While I do believe it's totally justified for the British to go in and help the Ukrainians, especially with the U.S. waffling on support, that is a very bold step to take. And we do have to recognize that Ukraine is not yet a NATO territory. So by going in there and getting involved in this conflict, while it is justified to do so, it is a very bold move toward Russia. And Russia could attack those troops and say that they're trying to defend their own territory. I don't buy that argument. I don't support that view, but they could argue that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to be honest, while I'm all for, blasting a Russian here and there, I don't really see the idea of invoking Article 4 if a British instructor got killed inside the territory of Ukraine. It's an active war zone. They are moving in when it's an active war zone. It's been an active war zone for 584 days now. So I've got to be quite honest, you kind of would expect the British to accept inherent risks of sending instructors into a war zone. Because when you go into a war zone things do happen, and that's just kind of something you can expect. Now, it's different, and also I would have to argue this, because I see someone in the live chat, and let me make sure I get it. Let's see, where the hell was it? One second, I gotta look. Someone said, I am a pro-Ukrainian, but that makes no sense. It's not a territory of a NATO nation. But hear this argument out. Let's say a NATO ship, let's say the USS F. Scott Fitzgerald. We'll just come up with a ship. Let's just say the F. Scott Fitzgerald is sailing through the area of the North... what the hell is this gap called? I forgot what it's called, but I know Rob Eisman in the live chat will know, so let me know what this is. But the gap right here, let's say a cruiser is sailing through this gap in international waters, it gets stricken by a Russian missile and then sinks. That's not NATO territory, but that would certainly start to invoke Article 4 and Article 5, because that's an attack upon a NATO country, and that is clearly an act of war against the entire NATO alliance. It didn't happen in NATO territory or NATO waters, though, but you can still see in that instance that would certainly be an invocation. And the British could argue something like that here, but the problem is that it's not international waters, it's not a NATO country, it's not NATO territory, it's Ukraine. And so it would be really weird, in my opinion, to go in there and then expect the instructors to be 100% safe, because, how my mindset is, if I go to Ukraine and a missile starts flying over my head and the Ukrainian air defense starts trying to shoot it down, and then that missile still somehow ends up hitting me and killing me, I would kind of assume that would be the risk of being in Ukraine at this time. It's a war zone. So I would say probably would actually expect the British to kind of just accept the inherent danger, and they probably would very likely not invoke Article 4 or Article 5 because of an attack that would lead to the death of British instructors inside of Ukraine. But we never know.
Yeah, if you really think about it, if Britain sends their troops into an active war zone that they're not necessarily directly involved in yet, but they get themselves involved in it, then one of their soldiers ends up getting either very severely injured or killed, and then they run back to NATO and say, hey, we want to invoke Article 4 and then 5 because one of our people got killed when we went to an active war zone. That, to me, wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. So I think they have to accept the risk, or otherwise it looks illogical.
And it's kind of similar to, like taking a trip to a war zone and, and then a missile flies over your head and you act like you're a victim. It's like, well, you went to a war zone things kind of happen. It's kind of like the tourists who go to Iraq, like in the middle of the 2010s and go, oh, I'm going to go bicycling across the country. And then they get beheaded by a terrorist group. It's like, it is an active war zone. There is a terrorist group that controls about a third of the country. Terroristic activities are going to happen. You just kind of have to accept the risks involved there, and you can't really be shocked when that comes back to bite you. So I would have to say, in this singular instance, while the British could probably argue it, I have a feeling it's probably going to be a weak argument in the eyes of NATO, and I'm sure there's already been some backroom discussions about what would happen, and the United States has probably said, if a British instructor did get killed, we probably wouldn't try and invoke Article 4 and Article 5 over that. It would just have to be something that's brushed under the rug and everything keep going. And so with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well, in my opinion, because that's how I'm taking it. And also I saw some people saying a ship is sovereign territory. If it was, then why in the world did they have to make a specific provision for NATO vessels in the NATO charter? They would have just thrown that under territory and just left that for what it is. Ship isn't territory, it's a ship. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and with that, that is our last poll for now. So we're moving on into our Super Chat questions. And up first, we have a $100 donation from Jesus UCSB, the LSA tanker. And thank you very much, Jesus, for that support. He says, Hola, and I have a message for Putin or any Russian watching the stream. Please don't think for a minute. LSA and USA will never abandon Ukraine. Oh, and Matt, show the pic. And I check your last mention for me, and please show the Mexican Zelensky. And also, I'm not sure if he sent that to our DM or he tagged us in a post, but Enforcer, it should be on Twitter. And also, thank you very much for the support, Jesus.
And thank you so much for the massive amount of support. It went so quiet there. At the end, we're just like, check it out on Twitter. Oh, by the way, they were like, wait. But still, thank you so much for the support, Jesus UCSB, the LSA tanker. And thank you for being here with us tonight. And let me try and pull this thing up. And there we go. And let's see here. Looking for it. Oh, here we go. I think this is him. Yep, we got him, Matthew. We got him. All right, here he is. It is Jesus UCSB. Hey, let's get it.
Some nice place. Where is this?
Man, that really do be a Gucci place. I mean, hell, for a place like that to be in Alabama, like we would have to have like a freaking oligarch in Alabama to have a place like
all
this.
That Fed money.
Man, all that Fed money, man. You're about to see like a little sticker down here on one of these tiles that says brought to you by Northrop Grumman. Like you see it in Huntsville?
Yeah.
Like on the Koi Pond.
Right.
Koi Pond brought to you by GBU 24 Paveway. It's like, what? It's like, hold up. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, Jesus UCSB. And I would have to agree with you 100%. The Lee Spring Army and the Enforcer Channel and the United States will be here with Ukraine until the very end. Right now, it's just a little bit of a speed bump. I'm very sure of it. Because once this little 45-day gap is over, I'm sure the support is going to continue to go to Ukraine very easily. Why in the world? I don't know why a lot of people are acting like the support's just ending permanently, because it's like a support bill was just passed a day or two ago for $300 million. Why in the world would people sit there and say, oh, now it's never going to happen again? It's like, that's just too much of a flip-flop too quickly. It's certainly going to start happening again once the 45-day gap is over. And also, really cool to see you hanging out here. Really cool to have the Lee Spring Army tanker, Jesus UCSB, on the screen for everyone to see. And I hope all of y'all get to see and know what Jesus UCSB claims to be the Mexican Zelensky, which is himself. And I gotta say, he kind of does look like Zelensky a little bit, you know?
Yeah, he does. And also he's got that drip too. Like those shoes right there. I can't tell what they are, but they're really cool looking. I like them.
And I gotta say, I gotta respect the sneakers. I don't know if they're sneakers or not. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, Jesus UCSB. I hope that does address that fairly well. And great to have a Lee Spring Army tanker here in the chat with us tonight. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one, which, believe it or not, is also from another channel legend.
All right, and this channel legend is BC Skyman, and he puts in a $100 donation as well. And thank you very much, BC, for that support very much. And he says, my family all say hi to the LSA family. And we just got home from our Caribbean cruise and Slova Ukraine. And BC told me in the live chat that the cruise went swell, and I'm glad to hear it did. because our cruise that we took one time in our entire life did not go swell whatsoever. It was a nightmare. Yeah, a complete nightmare. So I'm glad to hear yours went well. And Enforcer, what say you?
And welcome back, BC Skyman. We literally were talking about you in the 10-minute countdown, in a good way, though. We said, where the hell is BC Skyman? We both said that. We were like, yeah, where is he? He hasn't been here for a while. And you're back! Welcome back. I hope the cruise was good. And I gotta tell you, I gotta be honest with you. I want to go on a cruise, but I have such a trauma. I'm gonna tell you all about this really quickly. So all of y'all know about Carnival Cruise Lines. Honestly, probably one of the worst cruise lines out there in the industry. I think everyone could kind of agree on that. I mean, it has a place in the industry, but not really the greatest. But way back in the day, back when we were little kids, my dad decided it would be cool to get us on a cruise. And so he picked this ship here, the Carnival Holiday. This picture was actually when it was docked in Cozumel, Mexico, Matthew. Oh my God.
Oh dear,
Oh,
man.
God.
I remember we docked in Cozumel, Mexico, and we thought about escaping, like taking off and never getting back on that nasty boat.
Man, we actually were about to hand ourselves over to the damn Sinaloa cartel to get away from this boat, man. We hated it that bad.
We did. We drove out to the Sinaloa territory and everything. We're like, we're trying to find them. we were like desperate.
I mean, let me go down here to Cozumel real quick. Let's see. Here it is, I believe. Nope, that's not it. It's further up. Where the hell's Cancun? Dang it, wait a minute. Whoa, we were way down there. Here we go. Here's Cozumel, Mexico. Here it is right here. So, just in case y'all didn't know this, Cozumel, Mexico, right here, much like Cancun, largely has protection from the cartels in Mexico, because it's a tourist destination, makes money. You don't want to interfere with the money. But we got a rental car, and we hopped in it, and we literally drove around the entire island. And we didn't know this, but apparently the island is a hotbed for cartel activity out here in this jungle, and we literally just drove all the way through it. We even pulled over on a beach on this side of the island and just kind of wandered around for an hour, and then got back in and left. And I know there was some cartel guy that was out there with binoculars going, what the hell is wrong with these people? They're just out here chilling. But anyways, moving on from that. We got on a cruise. It was on this ship, and once we got on it, the captain made an announcement over the intercom and said, hey, thank y'all everyone for joining us. This is actually the final cruise this ship is taking. It's the oldest ship in the fleet, and it's had a great run. And we went, what? Wait, hold up. Oldest ship in the fleet. And believe it or not, this was actually the first purpose-built cruise ship for Carnival Cruise Lines in their history. That's how old it was. It was
I believe it.
It was put into service in the early 80s.
That thing would creak. You'd be sleeping at night. It would be creaking and cracking like it was going to split in half like the Titanic or something. And it really didn't have like any type of stability control or anything on it. Like the thing would yaw and sway crazily. Like it's nothing like a modern cruise ship like I'm sure that BC went on.
Yeah, I mean, BC Skyman was probably on like a Carnival. Well, not a Carnival. What the hell are the other companies, Matthew? For some reason,
Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean. That's a good company. What are the other ones? There's a few other ones.
Princess Cruises.
Are you sure? I think that's like a river cruise thing, isn't it?
No, I think they're on the high seas.
Let's see here. Princess Cruises. Yeah, they are. Man, their ships are ugly, man. I don't know what the hell's up with that one right there. It's like the bow got like snub-nosed. Like I've never seen a bow that was that straight up before. That doesn't look right. I'm not gonna lie. But hey, it's a cruise ship, and who cares about the bow? You're there for all the nice hotel rooms and stuff that they have on board. But still, oh yeah, Disney. Disney's another cruise line. There's Norwegian cruises. Let's see, Viking is a river company that is in Europe, I believe. But still,
man, those Viking commercials be driving me crazy too.
Viking river cruises,
traveling the world in comfort.
And man, it's some little tiny boat that's like 2 floors tall. Like she's kind of like putting along down
and those tickets on Viking are expensive as hell. Like it's like I think I saw one for like $10,000 a person or something.
But have you ever seen like how luxurious those little boats are? I mean, they are like literal hotels just floating down a river.
Yeah, I've seen. They're very nice.
Yeah, they're incredibly luxurious. Like I actually like watch review videos of cruise ships on YouTube for fun. I know it's really weird, but like I've always been interested in them. They're really neat to me. But this was the worst experience you could probably ever have on a cruise ship, and we had it. So we've always been scared of cruise ships ever since. But one day I will get on one and try it again. But still, thank you so much for the massive amount of support, BC Scammon. I hope you had a fun time on your cruise ship, whichever one it may have been. And thank you so much for coming on back to the LSA as soon as the cruise was over. And so with that, thank you so much once again, BC Skyman. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the final question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving back into the frontline news.
All right. I see some folks have a beef with Viking cruises. They're calling them pillagers and stuff. I don't know what's up with that. I don't follow the cruise ship beef, so not aware of that.
Dude,
but anyways,
they're
yes.
literally Vikings, man. You know, they're sailing up and down the rivers, pillaging people as they go, being damn vandals, you know? Dude, they sit there.
That's crazy. Like in every single industry now or any topic, there's always like some really bad beef going on in everything now, like cruises even.
Man, I'm telling you. And we're like a frontline recipient of that in the Ukraine war community, which is always fun. But you know, I'm not going to crap on Viking river cruises. Honestly, I've learned really well not to really crap on anything anymore, because it's always fine to crap on people, and then you get crapped on wrongfully, and then you're like, that's not fun at all. And so even if it seems like it's pretty compelling, I'm like, I'm not really going to take a huge crap on anything, unless if it's like completely necessary, because, you know, usually a lot of people get a lot of crap for no good reason at all. But anyways, with that, and now people are saying, but they're nice though. And East Malibu said, they pillage your pockets. I mean, dude, they be going in there going, arr, get all the gold. Arr, like pulling your pockets off your damn clothes. But anyways, with that, we are on to the final one.
All right, and the last one of the segment goes to Jay Bagwell, also another channel legend, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Jay, for that support. He says, Churchill would be proud. It's a small step, and hopefully others will follow.
And I'd have to thank you so much for the support, Jay Bagwell, and I'd have to agree. Churchill would be proud. Churchill would be very proud. Hell, the British have made it now farther into Europe than the British Expeditionary Force ever did. I'm just kidding, by the way. The British did amazingly during World War II, except for Dunkirk, but no one talks about that. But still, thank you so much once again for support, Jay. And I'd have to say, the British are, of course, the first to the fray. They were the first to the fray as far as the Ukraine war went at all. The first one to ever provide material support to them. It's been absolutely incredible. Well, actually, the Polish were the first to send any material support, but the British were the first to send Western material support, which was a big deal. And hopefully, that training being conducted in Ukraine will help for the Ukrainian forces to get trained at a faster rate, at a much higher quality, and be put on the front lines at a much more expanded rate. Interestingly enough, though, I do have to share with all of you all this. Many people think that the Ukrainians are largely a volunteer army at this point in the war, but from what we understand, it is mostly a conscript army by this point. So, you know, while they're not volunteers, the Ukrainians are still trying to train the conscripts up to the level of a normal contract soldier that you would find in the West, which really means a lot as far as the quality is concerned. Another interesting thing that y'all may not know, just in case people are like, oh, that's terrible. In World War II, the U.S. Army was made up of something like 77% conscripts. So only about 23% of them, only less than a quarter of all U.S. soldiers that served in the Second World War were volunteers.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah, you never think that, because most of the time in America you hear the story that most of everyone who fought in World War II was a volunteer. They all went running down to the conscription office to go get in on the sweet kraut killing action. But I didn't mean to put it like that. Sorry for all the German viewers here, but in 1942, this is actually pretty crazy as a military history thing. In 1942, just months after the war started, the Army actually refused volunteers from that point forward for the rest of the war, and would only take conscripts. Because through that, they can ensure that they would be able to tell the conscripts what their job was going to be, because you couldn't do that with volunteers. A volunteer, much like in the modern day, was allowed to pick their job, and nobody was picking the infantry. They were picking every other job but the infantry. So then the Army went, damn it, these people and abusing the system, no more volunteers. So they would only conscript from 1942 on. But a really crazy fact about the U.S. Army in the Second World War and everything that went on with it. And also, by the way, if y'all want to listen to more about that and how U.S. infantry operated, gotta highly recommend the channel Invicta. It's got like 1.5 million subs. He talks about all kinds of stuff like the structure of Roman legions, the Mongol hordes, the U.S. Army. It's really good stuff. High quality videos. And if you want to hear about that in great detail, like in a 30-minute video, that's the channel to go to. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well as far as the British going in and training the Ukrainians and what's going on in that regard. but incredibly great to hear, and hopefully we will get to see that the Ukrainians will be better off because of this training being conducted inside of Ukraine, and hopefully it'll also be slightly more cost-effective. But with that, thank you so much once again, Jay, for being here with us tonight and supporting the channel. You are a channel legend through and through. Not just being here in the live chat, but one of the only fans that we have ever met in person. We have been entirely honored to have you here with this channel ever since day 4 of the war, and we hope to have you here until the very end, until we reach the victory day in Ukraine when the Russians finally sign a article of surrender or some kind of a peace agreement. But with that, hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And with that, we're now going to be moving on into the location unknowns, where I sadly have to tell y'all, picture proof came out that an Abrams has already been destroyed before they even made them to, well, got them to the front line. A picture came out today that was taken by Russian forces showing the burned out remnants of an Abrams that had been destroyed in the fields of Ukraine. They said it was actually somewhere near the Zaporizhia region, and so it appears that instead of putting them into further training in Ukraine, the Ukrainians actually pushed them into service, and sadly, it appears that they've paid the price. Here's the picture. It's unfortunate to see and just terrible to know that another Abrams was lost back in Fallujah around 2004, and they used Adobe Photoshop to put it into a field in Ukraine. It's absolutely terrible to see. Just hate it.
Now, I could tell you that one was fake.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. That is fake.
I just, the one thing that tells me it's fake is the T-64 hubcap that's sitting right here in front of the Abrams that obviously isn't attached to an Abrams at any point in its life, but there's just one sitting there. That's a pretty telltale sign it's fake. But if you know pictures of destroyed Abrams, this destroyed Abrams in particular is famous. This is probably the most shown picture from any of the wars that we had with Iraq, whether it be the Gulf War or the invasion of Iraq in 2003, that is known. I mean, hell, let me go pull this up. The Iraq War, because I believe this one was actually lost in 2003 possibly, but let me go check. It may have been the Gulf War, because I think we lost more armor in the Gulf War in the end. Let's see here. Man, the pictures from the Iraq War are just insane, man. Can't show many of them, you know. I can't show that picture of Saddam Hussein being pulled out of a gutter, but it's hilarious. Dude.
Now, I want to point something out. I want to point something out real quick before we move on. Everybody gave me flack for that first photo that we looked at. Couldn't tell the planes were painted onto the runway at all. But look, most people looked at this photo right here with this tank photoshopped in, and they took the bait. And now they're laughing. Look at them. Look at them going crazy in the live chat.
Man, Matthew's beefing. Matthew be beefing.
Man.
Matthew, you don't be cooking
Come at
the
me,
beef.
man. Come at me.
Man. Aw, man, don't come towards me. I'm gonna send you to, but Jesus.
Oh, dear Lord.
Oh, man. Wait, hang on. I'm still trying to find the picture here. I don't know where the hell it's gone. Oh, my Lord. Are you kidding me? This picture shows up all the damn time whenever anyone's talking about the Gulf War, and now it's not going to show up. Let me go through.
That's okay if you can't find it. We just keep roasting the audience for not understanding this picture.
Man, well, I mean, dude, what's your problem, man? You're attacking the audience. Calm down, man. Calm down.
Man, I'm in a roasting mood tonight. I'm ready to roast.
Oh, look, Matthew. It's the Gulf War killdozer.
Oh my God, man, that looks crazy. Was that a real thing?
Yeah.
Dude, that looks like just a straight up box, like a tornado shelter or something thrown on top of a bulldozer chassis.
Man, I'm telling you, man, it really does. It looks a lot like the killdozer, I'm not gonna lie, but you've got to be kidding me. They don't have the picture on the Wikipedia page, and I remember seeing it here before, and that's what I went looking for, and it's not here. Oh, well. Oh, here's a Bradley that actually got destroyed in the Gulf War. Forgot to let y'all know about that. Bradleys have been destroyed before in combat. That's a thing. And, you know, and I say that kind of with a little bit of a sound of I don't know if it sounds like pride, but I think it's always important to remind everyone that, you know, one second, I saw something that just popped up there, but it's always important to remind everyone that Western vehicles aren't completely invincible. They're very advanced for what they are, but you always have to remember that everything has a weakness to it. But I'd be damned. I can't find the picture. Let me go pull up Destroyed Abrams. Destroyed Abrams. And there we go.
Wait a minute. Enforcer, did you hear that?
What?
Ding, ding, ding. The roast is ready.
Okay, go ahead.
No, the roast is ready. It's the joke, like ding, ding, ding. The oven went off. The roast is ready.
Oh, okay.
Oh, damn! Come
all
on,
right.
man. Come on, Jack.
Well, yeah, a bunch of idiots. Anyways, in this picture here, there it is. A destroyed U.S. Marine Corps M1 Abrams rests in front of a Fedayeen camp outside of Jaman al-Jaburi in Iraq in April of 2003. It was destroyed in the invasion of Iraq in 2003, so I got the war correct. It wasn't the Gulf War. But look at that. It's a famous picture because it's actually in the Wikipedia. You don't get I think that is the only picture of a destroyed Abrams on the entire history of the Abrams. Well, actually, here's another one that was lost in the Persian Gulf War. But you can see the Abrams have been destroyed in a couple places as well. Important to remember. But it's a famous picture. And so, what does some Russian do? They get done drinking vodka, maybe snorting some of that fine Peruvian blow. And then they go, hey, I had to Photoshop that into the fields of Ukraine and try and make it work. Sad. Sad. Sad.
Might be one of the better propaganda attempts, and that's not saying much.
It's not saying a lot at all, because that was a half-assed attempt to go get the most obvious picture of a destroyed Abrams in history, and then try and pass that as a destroyed Abrams. But moving on from that, and on to the next bit, we also got to see a picture of some Polish volunteers in Ukraine. And we can see them right there holding up the flag of Poland. And I've never actually seen this version of... Well, I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. It's the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I was reading the caption. I was like, that looks like the flag of Latvia and Poland mixed together. And then it said Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And I went, yeah, I forgot about that whole thing. But still, great to see the volunteers over there in Ukraine and fighting. And hopefully they keep it up really well. Moving on from that into the next clip, we also got to see a Ukrainian unit preparing to move on out. And when you hear the music, they're about to go, you know, all that the same song y'all have heard a million times. But we see them here walking around the Humvees, getting ready to hop in the Humvees, and getting ready to go for a little spin. And that's the end of the clip, but I gotta respect it. Great to see him moving out. Moving on from that and on to our next clip as well, we also got to see a Japanese MRE on the front line. And look at that. It's from the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force, the GSDF. And that's so hard for me to say because it has a J and a G right behind the other. And for some reason, I always get those mixed up in my head. But look at that. It is a Japanese MRE. And when he opens it, what's in it?
Yeah, what is in it? Is it sushi?
Seaweed.
That's it?
That's it. That's it. That was all.
Let me tell you, if I opened an MRE and I've been fighting the war and I saw like one sheet of seaweed in there, I would probably go berserk.
Dude,
I'd be like, what the hell is this? Dude, what the hell is even that?
The Japanese at Iwo Jima back at World War II. Thank God, this is a blessing. Everyone nowadays in the modern world, a sheet of seaweed? Ew. You know, like just absolutely roasted. But
man, the Japanese are about to single-handedly ruin relations between Ukraine and their country with this.
President Zelensky is about to make a speech tonight talking about, I thank everyone for their support, except for Japan. They sent the absolute dog water MRE. They're asked to leave the G7. Anyways, moving on from that. But I mean, you know, seaweed isn't that bad, I gotta admit. If you put some sesame oil on that thing, it's pretty okay. It's just that it's not up to most people's palate. It's kind of bland, really. But still, not that bad and pretty bizarre to see. I didn't know that Japanese MREs pack seaweed in them, but they do store for quite a long time, so I guess that's the reason why. But with that, we're going to be moving on from the Japanese MRE and moving on to some pictures of the 53rd Brigade in training. The 53rd has been fighting for a while on the front lines, specifically in the Luhansk Oblast, but has been moved off the line for further training and further refinement of the force. And we can see pictures here of the 53rd Brigade's infantry moving through the forest, and of course, going through training drills. And we can see in the next picture a blurred out photo that was looking at the twigs. And I gotta say, those are some nice twigs. And then moving into our last picture here, we get to see another Ukrainian soldier holding his AK in the sunset. Pretty damn nice, I'd have to say.
Pretty sick. Pretty sick.
Well, you know what we say, Matthew. We'd love to see it, love to see it. But moving on from that and into our last bit of Location Unknown news, we also got to see the Russian casualty report for the day. And,
Oh, yes, sir. They got 2 bobcats. What do you know? Yes, sir.
Man,
And
stop
look, of course,
lying.
there's some troll over there talking about stop lying.
Dude.
Man, the trolls love to. Why did the trolls even look at the lost report if they think it's propaganda? I mean, why?
Man, because they be seething. They be seething. They be molten. But most importantly, they be coping.
They do be coping.
They do be coping, man. And they cope real hard, man. They call them the, let's see, what in the world rhymes with cope? Hang on.
Man, they could have been from Copenhagen the way they're coping.
What rhymes with cope? Hey, it's not a pissing contest, man.
Oh, yeah,
let's see
yes,
here.
we're not a pissing contest. But it really is, though.
Man, they be putting. Man, I can't make any of these work. Yeah, I can't make any of them work. There's hope, rope, dope.
Uh-oh.
Sounds
Sounds like a bad combo.
Soap, trope, nope,
Huh.
scope, and horoscope.
What was that like when the Ukrainians, like, don't use a scope, they call that a nope scope?
Nah, man. That's when you look through the scope and you see Katarov at the other end. Oh, the horoscope! Oh,
Man, that nope scope was real dope. Don't even need a rope for scope.
Man, it'd be man, that rope scope be wait a minute, that that rope horoscope be so dope. I don't even need a scope. Do some dope. Do some dope. do that a second time so we get age restricted. But still, moving on from the jokes there on trying to make things rhyme with cope. We're going to be moving on to the casualty report now and actually getting to the news. 470 Russian soldiers have been schwacked over the past 24 hours, along with 12 armored personnel carriers, 18 supply trucks, 4 main battle tanks, 38 artillery pieces, 15 drones, 2 MLRSs, 1 anti-aircraft system, and of course the 2 Bobcat skid steers. Call this cope on a pope, because I'm telling you, the losses have been incredibly high today, and I finally made something work there that sounded ridiculous, so hopefully that gets a laugh.
That's gonna be controversial.
Man, yeah, man, some people are gonna be, cope on a pope? More like pope on a rope. But anyways, moving on. Oh, man, man, showers in prisons me more like nope on a soap. But anyways, moving on from the Russian casualty report.
Or nope on the grope. You know what?
Dude, that was a good one, man. Nope on the grope. Oh man, huge respect to the people in prison, man. They gotta deal with the grope and a soap. Anyways, moving on from the Russian casualty report over the past 24 hours and the stupid jokes that we're making about the things that rhyme with cope, we're now going to be moving on into the northern area near Kharkiv, where we got to see a Ukrainian demining vehicle at work. Man, the live chat's gotten good. And you see the demining vehicle down there flinging around its flail. Damn, that just got loud. We see it continuing to demine, doing its thing.
Doing a pretty good job, I got to say. Nice piece of equipment, finally made.
Man, that thing just looks like a giant Roomba. I'm not gonna lie, man. With how it's like moving around and stuff, it's like a mega Roomba.
A Roomba of death.
Is here, and it just keeps going. It's like, oh man, that's a damn good Roomba right there. You know, you get that thing, man, on your hardwood floors. Those hardwood floors might be destroyed, but they'll still be clean. I promise you that. But moving on from that and into our next clip, which is almost out of the northeastern front. It's in Kremenna. We got to see a Ukrainian soldier involved in a firefight today in the area, having to clear a jam. The music do be vibing, but we got to mute it. See him here loading his magazine, cocking the rifle again. We see a jam happen right there. He's trying to fix it. Bullet literally just bounced off the berm in front of him. He's still trying to fix the jam. So much for the AK being invincible. When you see him use his foot to slam fire the thing, that was actually, I gotta be honest with y'all, shooting an AK before, I wouldn't have done that, because while you can't see it, that barrel is probably facing right into his face with a live round in it. So wouldn't have done that personally, but it is a battle, so I'm sure he's not really thinking exactly about, you know, safety being first. I mean, he's in the middle of a battle, so safety's kind of last thing involved, but we can see him there using his foot to clear the jam, getting the rifle ready again, and then firing it over the berm, having cleared the little hung round. But still, pretty interesting to see, and hopefully they're able to hold these positions over the next 24 hours. And they, of course, will. That area of the front line has hardly moved at all. But moving on from that, and on into our next clip of news near Berestove, we also got to see that United 24 made a really good video today about the K2 unit. And they're the one with the little symbol that has a bat on it because they do be batty. I don't know what kind of sound a bat makes, so you're just going to have to live with that. So here's the clip.
Unit monitors the front line around the clock using at least 5 drones. They capture Russian soldiers in the most unconventional ways, and in just 1 year of full-scale war, they destroyed over 100 enemy armored vehicles. This is the story of a former beach manager and the K2 battalion, which became one of the most effective units throughout the war. In K2's videos, you can see shots of mortar launchers in action against the backdrop of burning land. These scenes are not staged.
It happened in Marinka. The position was caught in flames. Our soldiers were trying to extinguish it, but meanwhile some armored vehicle approached our front line. I said let it all burn, but you must keep firing. And they were both burning and firing, firing and burning. That moment was captured in a photo, and I decided to use it in the opening sequence as it represents the reality of our lives.
The stories of K2 seem
Man,
like
did you
something
see that
out
dude
of
in
a
that
Hollywood
thing on the
movie
left? That dude on the left was like his head was on a swivel, like his eyes were darting around everywhere. Like he could be a security, like when he gets done with the war.
Man, he could be a good bar bouncer. Just we'll mute that here for a second. Look at this guy. I mean,
Man, he's on high alert.
Man, this I gotta respect that though. Pretty good attention right there. But anyways, we'll let the clip play again. Sorry about that.
In a photo, and I decided to use it in the opening sequence as it represents the reality of our lives.
The stories of K2 seem like something out of a Hollywood movie script, but they are all true life stories. In one instance, the unit's fighters captured a Russian soldier using a drone. His unit had been entirely destroyed, so he received a signal to follow the drone to survive.
Interestingly, at first he was darting from one Russian trench to another, but his comrades forced him out each time. He later shared with us that he was warned something like this: "Get out of here, or a drone will arrive and throw a grenade." They simply kicked him out. When he realized there was nowhere to hide and we could see him and potentially eliminate him at any time, he decided to surrender.
Following these events, the Ukrainian General Staff even released...
Man, they're down there waving like I do at private jets that fly over our house.
These events...
Hey, we're down here!
The Ukrainian General Staff even released a special guideline for Russians on how to surrender to Ukrainian drones. On another occasion, a K2 drone was used to steal the walkie-talkie of a Russian soldier who had been killed in the gray zone. For 11 days, they listened to the enemy's communications, gaining information.
I don't mean to pause this so many times, but you can tell that these screens have Discord calls with the boys because you can see the profile pictures of the Discord members in the call.
Yeah.
That
I
is
think
certainly
you can.
a
I can't really
Discord
see from here, but I think so.
Man, I'm telling you, I know, man, I know.
They listened to the enemy's communications, gaining information on the Russians' plans in advance. Soldiers also used drones to eliminate mine barriers by dropping explosives on them to trigger detonation. Drones are indeed one of K2's key assets. This combat group is among the few that continuously monitor the front line from the air, 24/7. Thanks to this, K2 has an unprecedented amount of information about what is happening at the forefront. Nevertheless, they do not rely solely on drones. K2 commander Kirilo Veres proudly displays the trophies the unit captured in just 2 enemy attacks. 1 automatic rifle equals 1 enemy destroyed, and this accounts for only about 20% of what we were able to capture, he says. K2 also deploys American Javelin missiles, making sure the Russians have fewer tanks in service. In total, the unit estimates that during the first year of the full-scale war alone, they destroyed more than 100 armored vehicles, even though the war began for them long before February 2022. K2 is the 2nd Mechanized Battalion, and in general, a highly specialized unit within the 54th Brigade. While its exact size is not disclosed, there is evidence to suggest that it is up to 1,000 soldiers. The core of this combat group was formed by scouts after the onset of the hybrid war with Russia. Since then, these infantrymen have become proficient in handling mortars, armored personnel carriers, tanks, and artillery. The commander of K2, 35-year-old Kirilo Veres, holds the highest state award, the Hero of Ukraine. In 2014, he began assembling skilled fighters, even though he hadn't considered a military career before the annexation of Crimea and Russia's invasion of eastern Ukraine. Before that, Kyrylo worked as a beach manager in Kyiv. It was in honor of Kyrylo and his patronymic Kyrylovich that the name K2 was adopted. In the early days of the full-scale invasion, the unit faced the enemy in one of the most dangerous areas, near Mariinka. At that time, 15 tanks and 7 armored personnel carriers approached their positions.
When my officer said, "We won't make it," I replied, "You are underestimating yourselves. Whether it's 15 tanks or 20,
That man literally just said in response to that guy saying, "There's too many tanks," he said, "I find your lack of faith disturbing." He literally went Darth Vader on the guy, Matthew.
He did. And do you see their own custom like calendar back there in the background? Are you seeing that?
Where?
On the wall back there.
On the wall. I've never seen that before. That's kind of nice.
That is sick, man. They got their own calendar.
Man, that's really sick, man. That's about as sick as the plague right there. I'm not gonna lie. That's a pretty cool calendar. But anyways, back to the video.
they all burn the same. Sure, they might shoot a bit more, but they burn the same way, so shoot faster, shoot more accurately, and we'll come out on top.
The K2 soldiers managed to resist and destroyed half of the enemy's armored vehicles in just 3 days.
We don't want to boast, but wherever our battalion was, wherever our mission was, we always held it together.
Following the Mariinka battle, K2 took positions along the Seversk-Soledar line. The confrontation for the position known as the T-shape became legendary. During one intense battle, a Ukrainian tank attacking a dug-in enemy ran out of ammunition. So then, virtually unarmed, it used its tracks to crush the enemy's positions. Eventually, the Ukrainians
We watched that video here when it happened.
secured the position without further fighting. During an exchange with a prisoner they dug out of the ground, they asked, "So how does it feel after a tank?" To which they replied, "Brilliant."
I don't know of a
What?
single case where
Man, I would have said it was crushing to me.
Man, what kind of question was that? How does it feel after a tank? What do you reply with?
Brilliant.
Like, dang, I don't even understand that question, but it works.
Man, they said, "How do you feel after getting your ass run over by a car?" And then that guy went, "Oh, it kind of felt nice." He said, "Kind of nice."
Do it
actually.
again.
He said, he turned into that kid from Oliver Twist, man. He said, "Please, sir, may I have some more?" And then they ran him over again. Oh, man.
a person has 3 bedrooms and is happy to surrender one of them to someone. I have never been to Crimea, but this is my land. Why should I give it to someone else? When the Russians took it away, I actually felt like going there. So why should I hand over a part of my home to someone else?
It appears that they're not willing to stop.
Dang,
Wake up in the morning
Dang.
and kill Muscovite.
that drone was taking
Only
off.
then will this day will be worthwhile.
And with that's the end of the clip. Huge respect to United 24 for continuing to put out these videos. Really cool to see. And hopefully they are able to continue to make sure to make good videos and to continue to support the Ukrainian government. With that, we're going to be moving on from that and down into the Soledar area, where we also saw the Russians getting shelled. I've never heard that one before, but we're not going to let that play. So we can see the Russians down there getting hit.
Man, that was well, never mind.
One second, I'm curious.
Oh,
All
damn,
right.
it turned into something totally different.
Oh my lord. Now you see them continue to hit Russian positions. Huge credit to the 30th Brigade. They're doing a very good job in this video.
That was kind of like that Osama type beat at first, and then it turned into trap.
Man, that was that. Al-Basiri al-Bashar Ahmadis. I was like, man, what the hell's going on here? But also, by the way, the song I'm referencing there is actually a song that was made in the Syrian Civil War about Bashar al-Assad. If y'all are interested in like what the hell was that song, it's actually a legit song. I have to say that because I know someone's about to go, how offensive that you would come up with an imaginary song. No, that's actually the lyrics to a song. You can pull it up if you want. Moving on from that into the center of Bakhmut, we also got to see a JDAM hit a Russian base, and we actually got to see the aftermath of it because apparently some Russians were very lucky and ended up surviving the JDAM explosion. Here's their reaction.
Фух, ебать, мы на то и фартовые, бля. Вот это въебало, блядь.
Есть кто живой? Они живой.
О, блядь. Храните. Ваня, давай. Ваня белый весь как привидение,
This
блядь.
guy's got a laugh like Seth Rogen.
Главное, живой, смотри, сука. Ни одной царапины.
He's stealing a fan. He's stealing, dude. He nearly dies from a JDAM, and the first thing he thinks is, "Damn, I would like a fan." And he goes and steals a fan. What the hell?
Несет вентилятор, блядь. Что там творится, блядь? Это пиздец вообще.
Oh, someone's using
Damn,
it.
he's got a little tuberculosis to go with it too. But I guess you could say he's got fans now.
Oh. But anyways, moving on from that. I guess you could say these guys were lucky, but you know their days are going to be numbered here soon. Moving on from that.
You know what's crazier though? When the only thing they steal is fans, that means they are only fans. That's all they have.
Oh no, Matthew. Oh no. Oh no, Matthew.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no.
But anyways, moving on from that and into the southern flank at Mykolaiv, we got to see a video made by another Russian guy. Here you go.
И, ребят, тут явно, то есть тут уже
Here in Klishkivka, we lost around 1,000 people,
1000 человек, то есть даже может
perhaps even more, 1,200.
1200, то есть и
There's nothing to do there.
делать нечего, это просто возможность
This may be the last time you see the lads.
парней.
Today, in 1909, when we arrived to the zero line,
19.09.
we were at first given the task of recon by fire, then to take the tree line and occupy the residential area in Klishkivka. By the way, recon by fire means they just advance until they come in contact with the enemy and then they report where the enemy's at based off of that. That's what recon by fire is. For your understanding, in Klishkivka, from the lakeside, 2 leopards are operating. The zone is fully fired through and shelled with clusters. Moving out are 10 of us. And 5 are covering. Only because we didn't take them, so we'd have a chance to come out. Enemy manpower superiority is reportedly 10-fold. They're better armed. We have no magazine, nothing. Machine guns are rotten. We use whatever there is.
Какой полк, парни?
What regiment is this? 1307. Unit 78567. No one is hiding
They got a lot of
faces.
units.
If anything happens to us, we want to tell our relatives that we stood till the end. For Russia and for your good. And that's why you shall die on the field. Because that's a poor thing to stand for.
Wait, look at that guy's look on his face over there. Yo, dang, why'd you play it?
Wait, hang on, let me go back.
Oh, jeez, man, you messed up the whole thing.
What? Wait, what do you mean?
When the guy said for Russia, look at the guy's face on the left. Watch.
Dude, he's like, hold up, wait a minute, I'm not here for this.
He said, wait a minute, what? He said, for Russia. He said, that sounds like we're going to our death.
Man, this guy's probably from, like, the Caucasus Mountain region or way out in the far east of Russia. He's like, what? Man, Russia never did anything for me. He's like, we have no cowards. We will do our thing anyway. No one will be scared. No one will run away. We were promised artillery support and evacuation, and anyone noticed that this guy is like literally as red as a tomato?
Oh, he really is, man. He's a bad drunk. Like that's what you look like if you're really, really bad drunk.
Man, dude, he wears camouflage. He looks like Christmas, green and red. Michael Johnson just pointed it out right when we were pointing out. He said, "Man, that guy squatting needs to check his blood pressure."
Dude, he's stressed. Jeez,
dude, this guy's blood vessels be popping, man, like right now. We were promised artillery support and evacuation.
Dude's getting up and stumbling around like he's having a stroke.
But if our team does not return, if something bad is going to happen, this video will immediately go out on the internet. On behalf of our group, 10 plus 5 support, so 15 guys. We want society to raise the question of the training of the mobilized and contractors. Guys here are already on their second contracts. We have Akhmat, we have Spetsnaz, we have Wagnerites. They will do their job and complete their task.
Oh yeah, they're known for that.
But we feel sorry for the mobilized soldiers. And interestingly enough, did y'all notice that nearer to the end of the video, he said if anything bad happens to him, this video will go out?
Oh yeah,
Very
and they've got
telling.
Clown Group 1, 2, and 3, Wagnerites, the Cadaverites. They definitely didn't come back.
Dude, they went out there and the Ukrainians said, "Hey, I hear circus music in the distance. Fire at the circus music." And they never came
Then
back.
you see Kadyrov with his liver dying, pulling up in the G-Wagon, shooting a gun out the window, talking about, "Bliat, we're gonna win, yes sir." And then the troops are like, "We're screwed, damn it, we're going down."
Oh man, one second, I got this, man. You know, when Kadarovites go out into the field, Matthew, and hopefully I can get the right one here, right off the spot. Oh man, whenever they go out, Matthew, to the fields and they're walking around, this is what their footsteps sound like right here. Hang on, it's coming. That's what it do sound like, you know what I mean? Because they clowns.
You get that from like stockmusic.com or something like
yeah,
that.
I literally pulled it up. Like, we're at stockmusic.com. But man, they literally being clowns, man. But anyways, moving on from that in the southern flank, you can tell these guys didn't come back because they said at the end of the video, if anything bad happens, the video goes out, and then it went out. So we all know what happened to them. Moving on from that and down into the area of Avdiivka, we also got to see the Ukrainians moving through the devastated village of Opitne. And it's this Opitne, not the one south of Bakhmut. And so here's the clip. And we hear them playing the lo-fi hip-hop beats. And we see the Ukrainians moving through the destroyed village. Not as destroyed as others.
Everybody's saying, "My dog just came up and sniffed the screen."
Man, Mr. Corgi was wild in today. I'm not even going to lie. He was acting crazy. If he heard that, Matthew, you know he would have been barking and stuff at the screen.
Oh, he'd have gone bonkers.
Man, he would have gone zonkers. Like, Zoink Scoop, I think he's going crazy. Raggy. Wait, hang on, I can't say that. Anyway, moving on to that clip. Very nice to see them moving through a Pete name.
Someone gonna pop up talking about, "No, you didn't say that, no."
That's it. There was no vision, no passion, no mindset.
No mindset.
Man, we have lost it tonight, man. But moving on from the Donetsk area and also the Bakhmut area. No frontline advances happen anywhere today, by the way. Moving on down into the area of Zolota Niva, we also get to see a Ukrainian BTR-82 moving along a tree line. Take a look at that. Take a look at that. Boom, baby. Boom, jagga, jagga. Boom, jagga, jagga.
I like with fresh paint jobs, too. Those are looking clean.
Man, call them the Fresh Prince of Zolota Niva. Ah! And we can also see some BMPs up there. But still, really cool video, and love to see all the Ukrainian flags. It's really nice. Moving on from that, and on into our next clip from the village chain, we also got to see a truck grad firing off its rockets today. And everyone's calling Shiva the snake hunter. It's like, she didn't do well at that job. We can see them setting up the rocket launcher here. And now we can see the rockets coming in on the Ruski. The field is covered in smoke, and they're getting it set up for take two. They're reloading the rockets. And there they go again.
All those rockets are so tough, it turned the camera red.
Yeah, do you imagine what's happening to their eyes, man? They start seeing red. You know.
Do I taste metal?
No, there's no graphite. There's no graphite on the street. He's sick. Take him to the infirmary. But that's the end of the clip. Great to see the grad impacts actually hitting where they should. And now we can see them on their way. And that's the end of that clip. Moving on from that, and on into our next one, further down the line. We actually got a decent amount of them at Rabotne, and also, I'm going to have to sadly pick up the pace here on these videos because we are starting to run a pretty good bit overtime as far as the news segment goes. But we did get to see a BMP-3 destroyed today. This is a Russian BMP-3. The music do be bumping, but here's the clip. We can see it get hit by an FPV drone. The ammunition starts to cook. Wait, let him cook. Turret toss. Rate everyone. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. What is it?
I'd rate it a 6.
Fair enough. What else? What do y'all say in the live chat? Put it in the live chat. And oh, I don't know what the hell that was. Wasn't a cluster bomb. I think that was the ammo, like popping out of the turret and blowing up. But with that, that's the end of the clip. Really nice to see. And moving on from that into our next one, we got to see a Leopard 2 kicking up dust. Check it out.
Oh, it's coming straight for the cameraman.
They do be having fun. Moving on from that,
do.
and on into our next clip as well, we also got to see a Stormer HVM anti-aircraft system used by the British being used by the Ukrainians. I've never heard that song before, but anyways, we can see them moving on down the road. Star Streaks are clearly not loaded, though, which are the surface-to-air missiles that this thing uses. But man, that field is getting a little gushy. That field a little muddy.
This one's in English.
This one's English because it's a freaking British vehicle.
Hey.
Hey, look at that. Oh, there it go. Man, there it went. Is it going to get it? I think it did. When you see the little drone right there that they're going for, we see the Star Streak going for it. And boop, and it got it. Good job. Great job. Wonderful. Absolutely impressive. And of course, the Star Streak is a really cool little missile. Can't really look at it right now, but pull it up if you want to know. It's really neat. Moving on from that and into our next clip near Verbove, we also got to see some Russians on the defensive. It's kind of like a Russian bot whenever you ask them why the Russians haven't won the war yet. But anyways, here's the T-80. This is the view of from what I understand, a Russian T-80 driver as he sits inside of the tank. Tank's trying to defend against oncoming Ukrainian forces. Man, that little periscope do be dusty. Man, that'd be sounding nasty.
It sounded loud as hell.
Man, that gun, when it fires, it sounds like there's some rat inside of it that's like getting hurt or something. It's like, listen to it. Listen, did you hear it? Like that's just like a thing.
Yeah, that's like on the Flintstones. You know how they had like animals and creatures and stuff in the tank and everything. Man, turn that loud noise down. I can't even hear myself talk.
The bass is too loud. Go ahead.
So you got the Fred Flintstone creatures in there, like operating the tank, like they had the machinery being operated by the historic birds and stuff like that.
Man, it really do be like that though in a Russian tank, man. They're gonna fire that thing again. You're gonna hear it. There it was. There it was. Did you hear it? Let me turn it up. There's some rat in there. But that's the end of the clip. Gotta say, feel sad for the rat. But that's a little clip of a Russian inside of a tank. Moving on from that and down to the area of Tokmak, we were also able to confirm that the aircraft that was supposedly shot down near Tokmak was shot down near Tokmak, and it was an Su-35. Great on the Russians for shooting down their own planes. They honestly do a better job of destroying the Russian Air Force than the Ukrainians do, and that's their own Air Force, so, you know, gotta respect it. You can see a little Lada pulled up to it right over there. The epitome of Russian technology, the Lada, pulling up near the weak beta Su-35, trying to come up with all the stupid modern worlds that
Man,
everyone
that thing like implanted to the ground like it was like some kind of fossil or something.
Yeah, dude, it's like they excavated this thing out of some rocks or something. You're like, hey, look, it's an Su-35. But anyways,
It's like you're gonna have to rope it off and call in the geographers and stuff to come check this one out.
the geologists.
No, geographers. You know, they look at the land.
Man, I think
Yes, it's a geologist.
Man, I was about to say, man, I was like, please tell me you're kidding right now. I was about to be like, please tell me you're joking. But anyways, that was our last clip from the front lines, and now it's time for us to move on up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. And that speech do be hitting different. And so with that, here is the speech. Speech. And also it's the translator, so let me switch it over to Ukrainian, and here we go.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Сьогодні вже можемо оцінити головний підсумок цього тижня для нашої оборонки. Почався дійсно новий етап розвитку української оборонної промисловості. Відбувся перший форум оборонних індустрій. Дуже успішний, і він засвідчив глобальний інтерес до можливості працювати в Україні та з Україною у виробництві зброї та усього, що необхідно для реального захисту будь-якої вільної нації. Наш новий формат з оборонними компаніями – це Альянс оборонних індустрій. Станом на цей вечір має вже 38 компаній-учасниць. Вони представляють 19 країн світу. І це Сполучені Штати Америки, Велика Британія, Німеччина, Швеція, Данія, Нідерланди, Канада, Болгарія, Австралія, Бельгія, наші балтійські друзі, Литва, Латвія та Естонія, а також це Чехія, Північна Македонія, Словаччина, Іспанія, Хорватія та Фінляндія. Для старту це дуже потужна і робота триває. Ще компанії будуть приєднуватись, плюс наші виробники сьогодні підписали на форумі 20 документів з компаніями-партнерами. Угоди, меморандуми. Кожен такий документ стає потім новим виробництвом або посиленням існуючої співпраці. Це домовленості про спільне виробництво, це обмін технологіями, це постачання компонентів, виробництво порохів, виробництво боєприпасів. Це підготовка персоналу для нашої оборонки. Окремо і дуже уважно розвиваємо українське виробництво дронів, наземних та морських автономних систем. Загалом у нашому форумі оборонних індустрій, і це тільки перший такий форум, взяли участь більше ніж 250 компаній. Серед них десятки українських компаній. Працюємо і над тим, щоб в Україні виробляти такі потрібні нам системи ППО. Дійсно сильні. Коли з часом побачимо та відчуємо у реальних діях максимальну збройну потужність України, наших виробників, нашого ОПК, нашої нової співпраці зі світом, ми зможемо сказати, що початок цього був закладений саме зараз. Саме у таких домовленостях, як на форумі та як під час моїх візитів, зокрема, в Америку, в Швецію та в інші країни. Всі найсильніші вже співпрацюють або будуть співпрацювати з Україною. Наша держава стане одним із ключових світових виробників зброї та оборонних систем. І це вже не просто амбіція чи перспектива, це потенціал, який почав реалізовуватись. Я дякую усім, чия робота, саме такі результати для України. І зараз, і маємо говорити про це відверто, Україна є реципієнтом, отримувачем безпекової допомоги. Але наша держава може стати і стане обов'язково донором глобальної безпеки. Зокрема, завдяки нашій оборонній промисловості, завдяки силі, стійкості та незламності нашого народу. Завтра дуже важливий день для України, для усіх наших людей, день захисників і захисниць України. Мільйонів, які не лише зберегли Україні гідне місце в історії людства, але й роблять так, що наш народ, наша держава не втрачають свою історію, б'ються за своє життя і свободу, і надихають боротьбою увесь вільний світ. Завтра ми особливо подякуємо усім нашим захисникам і захисницям. Завтра ми особливо вшануємо пам'ять тих, хто віддав своє життя заради України. Вперше цей день Покрова буде 1 жовтня. І давайте зробимо для цього дня нашу нову традицію. 1 жовтня, 9 ранку, де б ви не були, на центральній вулиці вашого міста, чи просто вдома, давайте на хвилину зупинимось, на хвилину, і вшануємо мовчанням пам'ять наших полеглих захисників і захисниць. І подумаємо про тих, хто зараз в бою, в бойових завданнях, на постах, хто рятує життя, хто захищає в усіх сенсах цього слова наш народ і державу. Не було би сили і волі України, якби не усі, хто став на захист України. Дякуємо, шануємо, пам'ятаємо. Всі разом. Слава Україні!
And Heroes Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech for President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 584 of the war. And it is also the end of the halftime show as well. We're about to be moving on into the second part of this stream. The part where we get to talk to all y'all for about the next 30 to 40 minutes. And I gotta tell you, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and we are now entering our final question and poll segment, and we have many good polls to address. So let's go ahead and jump into our first one, which says unseen footage emerged today showing Prigozhin alive in Africa, and what is your assessment? 38% said Prigozhin is certainly dead. 27% said he might be alive. 25% said I need more info, and 10% said unsure. And on the unseen footage, I have to say that it's really hard to tell, you know, what's real, when stuff was taken, etc., because we obviously don't have the original copy of the footage, so we simply don't know. But I've never seen that footage before, so it struck me as a little bit odd to see it. But to go as far as to say that Prigozhin is still alive without knowing more details would be a stretch. So I'm going to have to reserve judgment. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, my boy Priggy probably dead, man. I'm going to be honest. That video may come out now, but it's probably an older one. I'm having a feeling he's probably dead. So that's my opinion. Of course, it's open to interpretation. He might be alive, might be dead. Hey, who knows? You know, it's a crazy world out there. The Russians lie a good bit. He could be alive somewhere down there in Africa, or he could be 6 feet underground like we think he is, somewhere outside of St. Petersburg, I believe. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll says the U.S. excluded support for Ukraine in the recent spending bill, and the Pentagon says it's out of funds for Ukraine. And what are your thoughts? 54% said, Ukraine can survive for a while. 29% said that this is critically bad for Ukraine. 13% said unsure, and 5% said Ukraine did not need the support. And I think that pretty much all of us can agree that Ukraine did need that support. No question in my mind about that. But to say it's critically bad, I honestly would have to somewhat agree with that, because 45 days is the amount of time the stopgap bill will be in place, in the hopes that a new agreement can be reached, which will be a long-term agreement. And there doesn't seem to be any consensus on the horizon for Ukraine aid. That is my assessment. I know some people keep claiming that there's some backdoor deals going on, that they're going to, you know, come out with something tomorrow or the next day. It's certainly possible, but right now that's just speculation. I hadn't seen any official reports of that. So, you know, it's a little concerning to me because Ukraine needs that aid. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it's quite concerning. I'm not going to really blow it up, though, yet, because it doesn't seem to be a permanent thing. It seems to be a temporary thing for 45 days. Ukraine can survive 45 days without U.S. support. Hopefully Europe can pick up the tab. That's why we make it a pissing contest, folks, because you never know when someone starts running out of piss. Y'all can quote me on that one. But moving on from that, hopefully Europe can pick up the slack for the 45 days that we will not be supporting Ukraine, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to supporting Ukraine once that's over. But considering that that the U.S. is the single largest supporter of Ukraine, it is a little concerning that we will not be supporting them for the next 45 days. I can say that. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well, and may the pissing contest begin. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And let's be real, it is a pissing contest, because when you're trying to raise as much money as possible for Ukraine, we're not trying to be all, you know, friendly and stuff here. We're trying to compete, because competition drives money to Ukraine. So why not do it? Unless you're too passive and you can't handle it. But anyways, moving on to our super chat segment. because we have a ton of really good super chats tonight. And first off, thank you all very much for the support. And the first one goes to our friend from Unicely, Alaska. That's why Tiger 907, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much for that support. And they said the pic I sent yesterday was morning. The 2 lakes you saw was probably the sewage lagoons. LOL. Oh. Hope you have a good night, and I'll be watching while working.
Dude, he hopped in and said, "Oh man, I wouldn't worry about that. That's where all the piss and crap goes." Anyways, good night. He just wandered off. But anyways, thank you so much for being here with us tonight, SYI Tiger. Let me go find, because I know where it is. I know where it is. Come on, then. Come on. There's Hooper Bay. Where's my Toksuk Bay? Is it up here? No way. It's not up here. There's
Toksuk Bay.
Toksuk Bay. It's down here somewhere. But
Russia. I've heard Russia really wants this land pretty bad.
Dude, I hear the Russians have a mission to get this land.
That's what I've heard. I'm hearing. They're telling me.
Man, I'll be hearing there's a Russian mission.
Man, I'll be hearing that river over there is looking like an oil river.
Man, you sit there, and you get a pump, and you put that thing on your car. You can run your car unlimited off of this river. This thing is,
Yes.
This thing is like charcoal black. That is very disturbing. But where the hell is Toksuk Bay? Let me just type it in. Not that Toksuk Bay. There we go. Are you kidding me? We went by it like 3 times. But let's see, the 2 lakes, probably the sewage lakes. Are they these? Are they these?
I mean, they just put the sewage in a lake.
Oh, wait a minute. It must be those is right here.
These.
I see.
These lakes.
Let's see. What was the morning of the 2 lakes you saw? Huh. That doesn't sound sanitary if that's where the... Oh, wait a minute. No. I think it's this one right here that he's talking about.
Ugh. Jeez, man, it's green, like real green.
man, that thing be swimming with bacteria, man. There's some undiscovered species in that thing.
What is that stuff along the water? It looks like boats, but at first glance, I thought maybe it was like mutant creatures crawling along the beach or something. Good Lord, man! What is now we know why they call it Toksuk Bay? It's really Toxic Bay.
Dude, the fish be crawling out of the pond, man. Instead of going like they normally do, they're coming out going. It's like The Thing, the movie The Thing, Matthew, where the creature comes out and starts turning into other people.
Yeah, I think so.
Man. Man, I guess you could say that's a bit of a dump on Dump Road.
And that's why I said it was the 2 lakes.
Oh, it is the 2 lakes up here. Well, these actually
what the hell? If these are the sewage ones, then what the hell is this one down here at the bottom?
Man, this one's the Toksuk Lake right here, man. This is the one that has...
Man, you don't even want to know what that is.
Oh, man. And also, Major Poner, get his ass out of here. But anyways, I don't know why in the world I came down on that man with a hammer and a vengeance right there, but get him out of here. Thank you. But pretty interesting to know that these are the septic lakes, and then this isn't, because this one looks a lot worse, I'm not going to lie. But still, with that, thank you so much for the support, SYI Tiger, and helping the channel to keep on running and sharing with us something that gave us some pretty good laughs about this here Toksuk Bay. And I guess you also fly everything in here at Toksuk Bay as well. I gotta say, though, the strip here isn't that nice.
Nah, it's not that nice, but I think they're flying in like those really rugged little planes, so I don't think the runway's that big of a deal.
Yeah, like a Piper Cub or something like that with a giant, super-sized inflatable wheels.
Yeah, I like those things. They're pretty cool looking.
Man, they kind of look neat until you slam one into the bush in Alaska and you're hundreds of miles away from anyone else, and then you're just kind of stuck there. Then they're not fun. But beyond that, they're pretty fun looking. But still, with that, thank you so much once again for support, SYI. I hope that does address that fairly well. Oh, look, you got the NYC store. Man, we love New York City. But anyways, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Jose Diaz, who puts in a $20 donation. Thank you very much, Jose, as well, for your support. And he says, thanks, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, and all my LSA brothers and sisters for continued support to our Ukrainian brothers and sisters, and Gloria Ukrainia.
And thank you so much for the support, Jose Diaz, currently in Orlando, but Commandant of Puerto Rico. And I got to thank you so much for being here with us tonight and thanking us for our dedication to the cause of supporting Ukraine. Of course, we have been dedicated to this ever since the first day of the war, and 584 days in, we're still going strong. There's been so many amazing people that have joined us on this journey. Of course, there are folks like you, Jose Diaz, Jesus UCSB, BC Skyman, Colleen Imsley, Mark the Incompetent Drone Operator, PsyOps. There's been so many people who have joined us along the way. The Foreign Minister of the Czech Republic, Real Engineering. Who else?
Former DOD's, former DOD officials, I meant to say.
Yeah, Trent Talenko. Let's see.
Yeah.
So many people have joined us on this little endeavor to support Ukraine here on this channel. And I gotta thank every single one of y'all so much for being here with us each and every day and coming here to find the news. We try our best to report it, and I'm glad that a lot of people find that this channel meets the standard. Of course, we're not entirely perfect and we don't get everything right, but we are so honored to know that so many of y'all find this to be a special place, not just for the news, but also for the community and kind of way that we cover the news. And I also got to thank you, Jose Diaz, for supporting the channel, because while your words mean a lot to us, more to us than support, because it really makes us feel great to know that people do enjoy this channel. The support does help us on the physical side of things and making sure that we're able to keep doing this as a job. And we are incredibly appreciative to all of y'all that go out of y'all's way to support this channel, because there is no prompt when you come on this channel, there shouldn't be, that tells you, hey, give them money. There is none. Y'all have to go out of y'all's way to go, oh, I like this channel, I want to support them, and then figure out how to support us, and then figure out how much you want to support us with. Y'all help us to keep the thing ad-free, sponsor-free. Y'all help us to be able to run this the way we want, and we can just go and give the boot to sponsors and ad revenue here on these streams. And by the way, I don't mean give the boot to sponsors like they're a bad thing. They're not a bad thing when it comes to videos, because our videos are pretty PG, but with streams, we got to run them how we run them, and sponsors wouldn't like that. And so there is no way to support these streams unless if it's through Super Chats. That's really the only way, because we haven't created any other way to do it, and I'm not changing the way we run these streams just to try and make sponsors happy. I like running it the way I do. Y'all have been able to make that possible for 584 days. And thank you so much once again, Jose Diaz, for being one of those folks, a commandant from Puerto Rico, who helps us to keep this thing running. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you for being here with us tonight, and of course helping the channel to keep on rolling. And so with that, long live the Leaf Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And on to our next one, we have a $20 donation from Hoodoo, Texas. And thank you very much, Hoodoo, for your support as well. He says something here that I'm not sure how to say, so let me put it into Google Translate real quick and get a gist of how this is supposed to be enunciated. Let's see here. Laudetse, to George, Laudetse, go UK.
Matthew, are you okay?
That's the way Google Translate did it. I just repeated
it. Man, that sounds dude, when you're drunk in Holland and you're trying to get back to your hotel, you just go to a random person on the street, you go, La Jordetse. But
and then they say, I kill you.
Just silence. Wait, hang on. Silence, or I'm sending you to God. Oh man, but thank you so much for the support. Oh man,
is that a paper you have in your hand? You're gonna get it now.
Oh man, you bastard, in that piece of paper, I'm gonna give it to you now. Oh man, but
you're gonna make me do it. You're gonna make me do it, man. Don't put that paper on me.
That's it. I'm gonna commit assault and battery and possibly even murder, and I'm gonna blame it on someone else because damn it, that's what I do. Oh man, dude, for some reason. Oh my god.
Damn, man, what the hell?
Dude, I'm literally laughing so hard my lungs are about to like explode. But anyways, thank you so much for the support here, dude, Texas, and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, let me pull up what that's supposed to be, because for some reason
it's French. It's French actually, and it translates to the audacity. The audacity. Oh my goodness, the audacity. Go UK.
And thank you so much for the support, Hoodoo, Texas. And I'd have to agree, the audacity, the witch. Wait, hang on. The lion, the witch, and the audacity of this sandwich.
Yes.
But anyways, thank you so much once again for support, helping this channel to keep on running. And also, So thank you for throwing that one in. That was a pretty interesting one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this thing to keep on running. And so with that, and thank you also, by the way, for allowing us to segue into something that almost made me literally throw up from laughing. That's how hard I was laughing. But still, thank you so much once again. Hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one. And Saxy went, what the hell? And yeah, I know that was pretty weird from a third person outsider thing, but if you all know what we were talking about, like if you were like completely versed on the details of what we were talking about right then, it would probably be the funniest thing on earth to all of y'all, I promise you. But sadly, we have to keep that one an insider thing because we ain't trying to make that a part of this show. But with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from Romulo V. And thank you very much for your support. It said, I am currently enlisted in the U.S. Army at AIT for EMT Combat Medic School, and just want you to know I appreciate everything you guys do to report on the war and the Ukrainians on the front line defending their homeland, and God bless.
Hey,
and thank you very much.
And thank you so much, Romulo 5, for the support, helping the channel to keep on running. And also, really cool to hear that you're actually in the U.S. Army. Gotta say, huge respect. Love to know that there's folks here watching that are actually serving right now. And you're not the only one who's from the U.S. Army. And great to know you're also a part of the Lee Spring Army as well. And also really cool to know that you're in EMT and Combat Medic School. I hope that goes well, and I hope you're doing really well at it. And thank you so much for appreciating everything we do to cover the war. We try our best to make sure to help out. And also something really quickly that I thought I would show y'all. Well, actually, I won't show y'all that right now. We'll show y'all that later at a good time. Because I've been trying to work on some. Someone asked me something in the background, and I was wanting to show y'all why we can't do it. But we'll save that for later, probably tomorrow stream, just to show y'all. But still, thank you so much for appreciating everything we do for the war. We try our best to make sure to cover the news like clockwork. We've largely been able to succeed at that. Almost entirely, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. And also, the folks on the front line defending the nation of Ukraine deserve all of the credit and praise that they can get, and that's why we largely stay on air, so that way every single day, even if it's not really that eventful of a day, or if it's an insane eventful day, we can cover everything that those soldiers have done and give them the honor that their story deserves. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well, and thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. Of course, support to the fundraisers helps to save lives in Ukraine through those nonprofits, but the super chats, of course, go to directly supporting this channel and helping us to do this as a job. And we're incredibly appreciative to all of y'all who help us to make that possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Mace, channel legend, and he puts in a $20 donation. Thank you, Mace, and also it's good to see you once again. And he says, out and about, Slav Ukraine, showed my Uber driver the channel. And, oh, man, I'm telling you, that's pretty cool.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Thank you so much for the support, Mace. And I hope you're having a fun time out there and about there. And also, it says that that is your first super chat. And I know, Mace, that thing be lying. Because you're Mace, if you're the Mace, that is not your first super chat. You've thrown in many before. Maybe a new account, but not the first super chat. Still, really cool to know that you showed it to the Uber driver, because, by the way, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the stream, and let me check. We have passed 160,000 subscribers.
Dang, and also we passed 12,000 on Twitter. We hit all those goals we mentioned last night, tonight, actually.
And I gotta say, absolutely incredible. Wonderful to know that 160,011 people are here subscribing to this channel and following us on the news. We're completely blown away that so many of y'all do that. Just absolutely phenomenal. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Mace, and being one of those people, and also getting a new one in tonight, an Uber driver. And I hope he's here watching tonight, maybe. One thing I know, though, is that from law school, like, I went and plugged the channel to everybody at law school, and I think out of all of them, only like one watches, and it's kind of irregular. But anyways, with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one is going to go to SYI Tiger 907, who puts in a 20 once again. And thank you very much, SYI, for always generously supporting the channel. And he said, I just want to say I'm not from Unaklee, LOL. FYI, I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, but I'm Alaskan native, Inupiaq.
And thank you for the support. Really cool to know that you're also an Alaskan native. But I think, Matty, did you say he was from Unaklee?
No, he's not from Unaklee. He's from Anchorage.
Oh, no, I know that, but I was like, wait a minute. I thought we always knew he was from Anchorage. I think that was like the second.
Oh, no, I just. I'll just say from Unakleet because that's where he was when he first super chatted. So I got it stuck in my head. But no, he is from Anchorage.
Oh, I see. Because I thought I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, SY, and I will apologize. I think I've always said you're from Anchorage after you sent in the super chat saying you were, but still, thank you so much for the support, and of course, one of our viewers from Anchorage, but we do know you as our Unakleet Frontier guy, because that's where you were when you started watching the channel, and that honestly is a really cool backstory to have, is that you were in the middle of the frontier when we first saw you in the live chat on this channel, and so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, SYI. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And also clarifying that for us really quickly, just so that way we can make sure. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And also, man, let's see here. What the hell is that called? Knick arm. Man, when I hit my arm on the table of a desk, I knick arm. and then after that, oh, Eagle Bay, you can't really make a pun on that. I was like, oh, how in the world do I make a pun? I can't. But look, it's the Knick River.
Squall.
And then you sit there and you get hit on the butte. It's a butte. I'm just kidding. Anyways, moving on. But anyways, with that, thank you so much once again for support, SYI. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to George Ferguson, who puts in a $10 donation and says, do you think other countries will put troops on Ukraine's soil?
I think the Polish will probably be the next one to do it. And yes, to answer that question, yes, and it will most likely be the Polish. And so with that, thank you so much for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Psyops, who puts in a 10 and says, I want to see if any of my people are watching the stream. What? I'm not sure what this last part means here, but it's sketching me out a little bit. And Psyops got us last night unintentionally, I think. So I'm scared to read it. But Psyops, thank you very much for that support.
And I thank you for the support, Psyops. And I'm pretty happy you read that. You didn't read that off, Matthew, because I think we were about to get had there. But still, thank you so much once again for support, Psyops, and helping the channel to keep on running. Worcestershire statistics and wait, hang on. Wait, hang on, hold up. Oh, sorry, you put in 2. I was getting confused. I was like, what the hell am I reading? Because that's not the same one you were reading. Let's see.
They're both sketching me out.
man, I'm getting sketched out by all of them. But still, thank you for the support, Psyops, and helping this channel to keep on running. Matty, I think that's that song, though, that goes, boom, 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 apple bottom jeans, boots with the... I think it's part of that song. I think that's what the lyrics are for. But, you know... That be what it is, you know what I mean? But still, thank you for the support, Psyops, and helping this channel to keep on running, and of course being an LSA comedian. And so with that, well, on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Jao Silva, who puts in a $10 donation and said, greetings, stop. Can we speculate on Russian winter plans? And question, how could the UK announcement change that? And we are opening plausible liability issues. Question, keep strong. Stop. No, don't. Stop.
And thank you for the support, Jao. So thank you for
I
the
have
support.
a feeling it's like maybe being put into like a translator or something like that, and it's like mistranslating a word or two in that super chat. That's I get the impression that's happening.
Man, I gotta tell you, that's probably the problem. Stop. But moving on from that, thank you so much for the support, Jao Silva. Stop, and helping this channel to keep on running. Folks like you do make this thing possible. And if that is a autocorrect translation issue, let us know, so that way we can make sure not to like notice that. But if it's how you write, also let us know, because I think that's really funny. Like in a good way, not in a bad way. But still, can we speculate on Russian winter plans? I would love to, but it appears that the Russians now at this point in the war are entirely defensive focused. So their battle plans are just trying to hold their ground and not lose any. That's largely their plan. Like last year in the winter, we actually could go over the Russian plans for the winter because they were still trying to conduct offensives to some extent. But this year, there really are no plans. It's just hold the front line area and then wait for the Ukrainians to do something and then react to that. So they don't really have a plan. They're more so reacting at this point and just sitting around and waiting for that. So I hope that does address that part fairly well. And also, UK announcement change. We are opening plausible liability issues. That might be that largely is the case. We may see that because Britain is in Ukraine, it starts opening up a can of worms where Russia can say that NATO is starting to get more involved in Ukraine. Kind of like how the United States sent over advisors and trainers to South Vietnam, and then we ended up getting completely involved in the war from 1965 onwards. So that could also happen in this instance as well. well. But still,
And, you know, something even worse than that I have to point out. And while I'm all against the Russians and I'm all for Ukraine, we do have to remember that NATO was designed to be a defensive alliance. It was not made to be offensive. And even though Britain is acting on their own accord by planning to send in troops to Ukraine, they are nonetheless a NATO country. So even though it's not expressly stated, it looks like NATO is taking an offensive action by sending in troops to an active war zone that is a non-NATO country. And that to me seems a little bit reckless. If we're going to send in troops, we should just expressly state that NATO is getting involved and not try to pretend like it's not, because really that is essentially what's happening.
And I would have to agree. And so I think that if anything does happen, we may just want to, say, well, that was kind of an inherent risk, because it would be weird to start trying to transform NATO into something of a preemptive offensive alliance. It's an entirely defensive pact. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And thank you so much once again, Jalo Silva, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And of course, thank you once again. I saw Matthew just got rid of him. They sat there and said something to me, and I went right back at you. I threw out the Uno reverse card. I said, here you go. And also,
that person was a racist too.
Yeah, straight up racist. By the way, just got to share with y'all, isn't that kind of weird that all of the people who you'd largely consider very questionable in society, like that guy who was an outright racist, if you saw his name, and we both added him, so you can see his name right there. Isn't it kind of weird that they're all members of his community specifically? Because we don't have anyone like that here.
No, we don't entertain people like that. But you
apparently
the other side does.
Hell, let me think of all the people that we've had come in from over there. We just had that guy who's a racist. I think we've had one guy who had like some kind of name that was related to the Klan. Then we had another one who came in who was like wanting to execute certain groups of people in society. That was their username. Very weird usernames coming from that community. And then, of course, the leader of the community is threatening death onto people, saying he's going to send you to God, and you don't get sent to God any other way rather than getting laid out by a bullet or something. And it's a very weird thing. Just hoping y'all are noticing that, though. Just as a side note. But anyways, with that, I hope that just addressed that fairly well, Jalsil. Thank you once again, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Herberg, who puts in a $10 donation and says, I made it again, and rip sleep, and thank you. And yes, rip sleep. We're all ripping sleep at this point.
Man, I'd be ripping a Monster Energy drink on Friday, and it was not good for me, man. I know that thing just burns your arteries every time you drink one of those. Honestly, I gotta stick with cold brew. Like, I'm gonna have to stick with it. But still, thank you so much once again. And I guess we're all kind of doing that as far as the sleep is concerned. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Steve T, who puts in a $10 donation and says, Japanese miso soup, dust in the mug, and magic 10M pieces of seaweed out of nowhere. Just add water. I made 3 cups to try to figure it out, where it came from.
And thank you for the support and sharing that with us. And also, that's pretty interesting here. I guess you're talking about the Japanese MRE for the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force. And that is pretty interesting to hear what it's made up of. But dust in the mug and magic 20-meter long pieces of seaweed out of nowhere. I don't know if that's in the
MRE. Like a dusty mug, I'm telling you.
That's not on the menu. It just says it gets a dusty mug. That's it. But still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, pretty interesting to hear. And I thank you so much for sharing that with us, Steve. Of course, one of our viewers from New Zealand. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $7 super chat from Ari Soini, who does not leave a comment. But thank you very much, Ari, as always, for that support and always being around on the channel for a very long time. And we do appreciate it very much. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Eric Kress, who says, here's a small thank you. And also, how much more do you think Putin will take before unleashing a nuke?
I think he's just going to keep taking it. There will be no nuke. That's what I largely think, because it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. We just keep on pushing the line, and they're not reacting in any way we thought they would. So I don't really think there's going to be a nuke coming anywhere down the road, unless if somehow a conventional war broke out in between us and them, and then we would probably see something like that happen. But I don't really think we're going to be seeing it right now. I don't think his buttons can be pushed enough, because he knows what's going to happen. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you everyone in the live chat for supporting us in that specific instance, because it seems like folks are starting to wise up. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Wyatt Logan, who says, long time lurker. LOL. He says, first time donation. Thanks again, guys, for all the hard work. And can I get a Shoigu from the Enforcer?
Shoigu! And thank you so much for the support, Wyatt Logan. And also, I love to hear that you've been a long time loika. We always have loikas up here in the live chat. We don't know who's loiking. You know, people could be loiking of every kind and every sort. There's people loiking around that we don't even know about. And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running tonight. Every single bit of support that y'all send in through Super Chats helps us to keep doing this as a job. It helps us to be the way we are on stream. About as stupid as we are, about as smart as we are, about as right as we can be, and about as wrong as we can be all at the same time. Y'all help us to do that every single night. And so, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And also, I hope you enjoyed that Shoigu as well. And with that, to the next one.
And the next one goes to Christopher Castillo, who puts in a 5 and says, in Kosovo, who would you join? The Brotherhood of NOD, or GDI. NOD Flame troops are cool. And personally, I would love to get my hands on a mammoth tank. Hashtag CNC.
And I thank you for the support, and I gotta be honest with you here. I actually wouldn't pick a group as far as Serbia and Kosovo go. It's a pretty tough thing going on in Serbia, and I wouldn't want to even join a group in chess, you know, because I don't really know a lot about those groups specifically, and so I would have to actually say I'm not picking a group. All I know is that from Serbia came the Remove Kebab song. If y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, Matthew, the one where the guy was playing the accordion and he looked like he was like born killer.
No, I hadn't seen that one.
Whoa, hang on. Hold up. We gotta go get it. We gotta have an educational moment for everyone on stream. 1 second.
Is it copyrighted, though? We don't want to get in a big heap in trouble again.
I'll check. I'm doubting it.
Don't even risk it if it is, because we can't have that again.
Let's see here. So... hang on, let me go check.
Oh.
Oh, dang it. Dude, how the hell? Okay, so anyways, I'll show you all the clip without the audio. But that's the guy right there in the right side, and the cat's vibing to it. But this song,
hey, that's that cat. That cat has been all over the internet recently.
Yeah, it's just bopping to the tune. But anyways, this guy right here. Funnily enough, a little bit of a story about this music video. This guy was actually playing this accordion for the song in the middle of the war zone in Kosovo. And the song is specifically about removing the kebab, which is, they call them the Turks, because in Serbia, anyone who's a Muslim is a Turk, and they're a kebab, so they say, to, you know, just exterminate them, and that's what the Kosovans are. They're Muslim, so then they get called Turks, and that's why the whole genocide was conducted against the Kosovans by the Serbs. But anyways, that song is a very famous one in the meme world because it's just so weird, and it's also so bad that it kind of entered the realm of being funny enough to be okay as a song. But there's a little bit of history behind it, and that's also what I was referencing right there with the whole Serbian thing. But still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope we were able to address that fairly well. And we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is from Jesus UCSB yet again, and he puts in a 50. And thank you very much, Jesus, for the second support of the night. And he says, I have some input, Tanker 101. To anyone listening in the US DoD, you might not have money to give Ukraine, but wink, wink, no one can stop us from sending arms and ammo at Vilsek, Germany to Ukraine. Oh, and I'm ready for my flight to Kyiv.
Interesting proposition, Jesus. Thank you for the support. Not saying that we should get involved in open corruption, but I'm going to turn a blind eye. I'm going to turn a blind eye. If that ends up in Vilsek, hey, that's it. It is what it is. But still, thank you so much for the support, Jesus. If anyone from the DoD is watching, dude, they're turning around quickly, looking behind themselves at the Pentagon, going, "Wait, no one's watching this, are they?" After that statement was made, they're like, "Huh? Okay." And we need 3 Abrams to go to Vilsek, please. But still, thank you so much once again for support, Jesus. And not a bad idea. I mean, if the support just stopped, what's wrong with a little bit of arms dealing here and there? You know what I mean? I mean, there's nothing that wrong with it. But still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that further well. And Jesus is getting a huge laugh out of it, but thank you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jal Silva once again, who puts in a 5 and says, hello again. Stop. Not a translation issue. Stop. It's a telegram. Stop. Pick a question from the live chat if possible. Stop.
Oh.
Go LSA. Stop. Glory to Ukraine. Stop. Stop.
And thank you so much for the support. Stop. Thank you for clarifying that. Stop. Because I actually thought that was a part of the Morse code. Stop. Stop. you just hear that come over the Morse code. Well, the telegram, man. You just hear stop. And it's just someone saying it. They're not even like typing it out or anything. But still, thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And we will make sure to grab a live chat in your honor, Jal. And so with that, what do we got?
All right. And also CK Bold put in a 5 as well, as usual, and said take a live chat as well. So we'll take 2 of them in honor of CK and Jal.
2, please.
So the first one of the 2, buy 1, get 1 free. Or buy 2, get... whatever. You know the thing. This one goes to Deslock, who says, do you think Russia is behind Serbia's actions to benefit themselves in some way?
Not really. The Russians backed the Serbs, but I don't really think they were behind the escalation here, because it was a very organic one. If you watched it unfold in the background with the Ukraine war happening, it was a very organic escalation, one that wasn't forced like the Ukraine escalation was. This was entirely just tensions in between the Kosovans and Serbs starting to boil over. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. And with that, we're on to the second live chat.
And this one goes to Shane Springer, who says, what do you think about Russia letting Ukrainians in without passports? And that's very suspicious.
That is very sus, I will say. And I don't trust that at all. Wait, hang on. Let me get... That's very sussy, baka. Boom, boom. And then, what the hell is that other word? Incel? I don't even know what the hell that is.
Me neither, man. Never heard of it.
Man, what a bunch of incel. It's like, what the hell is that? Is that like a dry battery or something like that? I don't even know what that is.
Man, that's a Duracell.
man, that's the competitor to Duracell that didn't ever take off. Incel. Like, what the hell is that? What the hell is even that? But anyways, thank you so much once again for support and helping the channel to keep on running. And I hope we were able to address that live chat fairly well as well. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $5 super chat from Wyatt Logan, who says, this is from Bradley, my chocolate lab, so you can buy extra dog treats for Mr. Corgi.
And thank you for the support, helping us get dog treats, and make sure to make Mr. Corgi happy. He loves treats. Sheba loves treats more than him, really, but Mr. Corgi is a big fan of treats. And we will make sure to help those little puppies to keep on getting treats and to keep on enjoying the good life. They have a very good life. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that further well. And it appears, Matthew, that we're getting an answer in the live chat of what it is. It's an involuntary celibate.
Wow. That must be one of those new age terms that the kids are using these days.
Yeah, that must be one of those things like the crypto people use, you know, like all those stupid little like quick terminology things that they have. I've never even heard of that before in my life. The first time I've ever heard about it was when it was used against us, and I was like, what the hell is that? Like,
what the hell is even that?
I literally said that like that, man. I was like, what the hell is even that? But I don't even know what that is. Like, you know, I have no idea. But anyways, and Glock said, I have no idea either. Yeah, I mean, like, that's confusing, you know? Like, if you're going to throw an insult at someone, at least make sure they understand what the insult is, you know? Like, I mean, hell, we got plenty lined up. You know, there's a lot of subject matter over there. And, I mean, he would know. I mean, he would know what it is. But anyways, moving
Someone
on.
says from 4chan years ago. That's about right. That's
yeah.
where a term like that would get started from.
That must be...
You know, there's certain thing going on these days that when people use certain types of words, like, you immediately can identify where they basically come from and their mindset. And that is apparently one of them, because I've never heard anybody use that term except for really nutty people.
Aw, man, hanging out on 4chan all day. Aw, man. Let me go and start threatening to send people to Jesus. Aw, man. Oh, man. But anyways, and also someone said, I can't believe they didn't know that term. Why would you think we'd know that term? We don't even know who modern actors are. We don't even know what modern songs are. Why in the world would we know that specifically? Like, I don't
That's
live.
because we're a little bit busy.
Man,
we don't have time to sit around and look this stuff up.
Man, I'm so busy, I don't even have time to say I'm on the grind. We're just grinding this whole thing out. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Romulo5 once again, who puts in a 5 and says, "Good night, guys. Thanks for the news, and hopefully I'll be 68W by January and looking to get stationed in Europe."
And thank you so much once again for the support. Really cool to hear. And I had to do a quick Google search on that one. That is a combat medic specialist. And I hope that you have a fun time doing that. Of course, the Army always needs medics. It's one of the most important jobs out there logistically. And I hope that you have a fun time. Maybe you'll be able to get stationed in Germany, like our boy Jesus UCSB, who was stationed in Vilseck, Germany. But still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And I wish you the best of luck. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and moving on into our live chat questions. Up first, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. Excuse me. And this one goes to Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, and Tightlines LSO. They said, "Howdy, LSAers." And tonight's Morse code cipher is, "Ukraine will keep fighting on, with or without support. Slava Ukraine, and long live the LSA."
And that's the sound of money. And y'all got that right the first time. Congratulations to y'all once again. And Ukraine will continue to fight on with or without support. And we will continue to support them until the war is over. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are now going to be moving on into the live chats at large. We're only going to address 3 of them tonight because I have to get up very early in the morning, even though it's Sunday, and I have to try and knock out this essay that I got about halfway done today and then have that turned in before the Sunday night stream, so that way I don't fail. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
Man, don't want to fail. I'm telling you, don't want to fail.
Oh, man, I'm going to call up their law school. I'm going to get them kicked out. Oh, man. Meanwhile,
we're not accustomed to failing, so we can't do that.
Nah,
like
man.
some other people. Some other people are okay with it. We're not. But anyways, moving on to our live chat question here. We have one from Eugene Minton, who says, "Would government bonds be a means to get money to send money to Ukraine?" Man, he's talking about a war bond.
Man, he's talking about war bonds. I don't think so, at least in this current situation. But it has worked in others before. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night. Now, twice upon a time, we do know about simp. We have heard simp before. That one's just used enough that everyone knows about that nowadays. But with that, we're on to the second to last one of the night.
And yes, we do know about simp. That was a heavily used term in high school. A lot of these words sound like words that a high schooler would be using. So, we're a little bit beyond that point by a long time. Many years. Feeling old now thinking about that. But
some people peaked. Some people peaked.
I guess. Well, I won't go that far. I won't be that cruel.
They
but
climbed
anyways,
in a road and they peaked, and then they went back down the summit. Oh man! Second to last one.
And this one goes to Brett Smashy. He says, "Why doesn't the UK train Ukraine forces in Poland, another NATO country, rather than going to Ukraine to do it? It would be more secure and safe for everyone."
Good question. I honestly would not have a good answer to that. That's a very good point. They could just train him in Poland. I don't really know why they're not wanting to do that. Maybe it's just to send a message. Maybe that's the whole point of sending them into Ukraine, is to send a message, and that's it. Because I don't really see a reason why it would be worse to just have the training fields near Rezhal or Primjal or Lublin, if I'm pronouncing those correctly. And I know I'm doing that wrong. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Brad Smashy, really good question and a very good point. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And this one goes to Boris the Cat, who says, "Was the big news that President Zelensky mentioned yesterday announced today?" And it was not. And sadly, I think it's because he was expecting aid to Ukraine to get passed, and it turned out it did not. And I think that's why it kind of went quiet, and we hadn't heard anything since. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I think it's largely the same thing. No one heard the big announcement. It never came out. And I think it was because he was waiting for the support package to be approved, and then it wasn't. So I think that's why we never heard the big announcement. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And y'all guessed it, we've reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure to run this stream for y'all all tonight. I hope you all have enjoyed the news, because we were absolutely honored to run the news for 5.7 thousand of y'all live and 25,000 of y'all over the length of the stream. And also, nobody hates you. You had a good question, but we can only get so many of them. But with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army never dies.
And good night, folks. We'll see you all tomorrow on our fundraiser stream. Be sure to join us then. And Slava Ukraine, LSA.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
На